Hey y'all, it's your legal bestie, Attorney Simone. We are back from our lunch break. They now have Cassie's makeup artist on the scene. And so we're going to join. Some people are like, Simone, where are you? Get back in here. Y'all, I was on the commode, okay? I was on the commode. Y'all going to get enough of asking me questions that you don't really want the answers to. But we are ready and we are going to get right back in it. I am going to quickly get you guys up to date. Now, here's the thing. This particular makeup artist, I believe that part of what her goal will be to testify to is that she's of course going to talk about covering Cassie's wounds. She's going to talk about the frequency of the beatings. But more importantly, I think she's going to talk about some of the modes and methods of how he operated. As in, he'd know he did something wrong with her and he'd pay her, the makeup artist, to cover up his wrongdoings, as in the beatings, by paying her with enterprise funds. I think it's going to be things along those lines. Okay. So let's go on in here. Okay. So they had the break. They are back. The jury is back. AUSA Comey says they want to put in exhibits showing Miss Ventura scantily clad. We think it plays into the stereotype that if she dresses like this, she must have consented to the FOs. So let's read between the lines real quickly. Somebody said, Megan said, I ain't heard the word commode in a long time. Yeah, I was in the commode. Don't forget to like this video, you guys, as you come in. Here's part of the challenge. They're saying the prosecution is saying this pours that showing photos of Cassie scantily clad. Too much is going to lean into the fact or the theme that she dressed like a, slut, so she must have liked the FOs. Well, hold on a second. Let me make sure I got this set up properly as we get in here. And it specifically said that she consented to the FOs. Well, I think we can agree it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for them to convince the jury, that she is not consenting to the FOs. But I think that also I say that because I also just want to reiterate to you that the difference between trafficking and mere prostitution is the consent, the coercion. Consent and coercion are similar, but with coercion, it takes away your consenting. Basically, you're doing it because if not, you're going to get beaten. You're doing it because if not, you're going to be blackmailed or you're going to have tapes released of you. That is the theory. But again, the challenge, I am recognizing, I'm giving you both sides. I'm recognizing that the challenge is, I do think with this jury, it's going to be hard to get all 12 of them to believe Cassie did not consent to the FOs. And it's going to be, if they do victim number 2 as well, it's going to be hard to get them to believe that as well. Kid Cudi was this morning, Shelly B. Thank you for asking. Kid Cudi is done. He's completed. If you want to watch that one, go to that's why I do 2 videos. I do a before, lunch, and after. Go ahead, you can check out that one. And that is Kid Cudi. All right, here we are. So it says the judge is saying, so they're saying, oh, Your Honor, we don't want these photos of her being scantily clad admitted into evidence because it's going to play into the concept that she must have consented to the FOs. The judge is saying, hey, I only have the album cover. Combs's lawyer says, well, we can bring it up on the screen. They do, but not for the public gallery. They say, we've withdrawn some of the exhibits. It's rather about her career opportunities and the like. The judge, what's the relevance of these exhibits? The next witness did Miss Ventura's makeup. So what's the relevance of these exhibits? The judge is asking. He says, well, what's the purpose of these pictures? It's a 402 issue first, which is relevance. The relevance, they're saying, the defense says, is Miss Ventura testified about her career being impacted. Ms. Comey says, I'll stipulate. In other ways, she'll agree to certain things. If you stipulate to certain things, sometimes then you don't have to get evidence admitted on the issue because it's not disputed. So sometimes, let me give you an example. In a personal injury case, if the medical bills are really low, sometimes I will stipulate that Yes, they had medical treatment, but we're not going to enter into the record that medical bill. Why? Because if people see a low medical bill, a lot of times the jury will think, oh, they weren't that injured. But maybe it was a low medical bill, but my client has a permanent scar on her upper arm, right? But the medical bill was low. I'll say, Your Honor, we'll stipulate that her arm was injured. I think both sides are agreeing. We'll stipulate her arm was injured, and we will not be submitting the medical bill. Takes the issue off the table. Other side don't like it because they want the fact that it's a really low medical bill. So that's what stipulate means here. They're basically saying we're trying to take this issue off the table. The judge, this is one photo of a public event. So what's the problem? Comey, it's a low-cut dress. I'm allowing it in, as you should, Judge, but not number 652 or 745. Bringing the witness and the jury. Here's the thing. That was smart of the judge. It was a public event. For example, if she's dressed slutty to the awards, to like the BET awards or VMAs, it's already been in the public eye. So we're okay. At one point, I think I read while I was on the commode trying to get my stuff together for this, I think I read that one of the photos was actually an album cover. How y'all gonna be disputing the album cover? Go on and let them in prosecution. If it's an album cover, it's just that. It is, this is what we agreed as part of the marketing scheme. So yeah, all right. So the current witness is makeup artist Myla Morales. She says, I'm Myla Morales. Myla Morales, I'm a celebrity makeup artist. Do you recognize anyone that you've worked for? They're talking about like in the courtroom. Meaning in the courtroom. I was on the commode. Yes, Cedar Elm, we've established this. Yes, that's why I needed a moment. My lady parts needed a little break. Here we are. She said, do you recognize anyone that you've worked for, meaning in the courtroom? Sean Combs in the gray sweater and white collar. When did you work for Mr. Combs? 2000 to 2005. Then who? Rihanna. Hey, Riri. Who else? J-Lo, Cassie. When did you work with Cassie? 07 until COVID. She was like a little sister to me. How much older are you than her? She said a few years. Did you see her with injuries on her face? She said 2010, Grammy weekend, the Prince party. Where were you with her? Beverly Hills. I fell asleep in the room and woke up to commotion. Cassie walked in, then Sean asking, where the F is she? What did he do? He walked into the bedroom and shut the door. What did you hear behind the door? Yelling and screaming, both of them. And then Sean left. What did you see next? Cassie. She had a swollen eye and knots on her head. I packed her things up and we went to my house. And then my doctor friend came and examined her to see if she had a concussion. What were you afraid of? Sean, I feared for my life. Objection, moved to strike. The judge said, overruled. It's going to stay. How long did she stay? Days. Have you done interviews about this? A couple. Were you paid? No. Did you provide evidence? Photos of me and Kim Porter, early 2000. Were you paid? 1,000. Hold on. Oh, it sounds like she was paid for the photos, but not the interviews. That is standard. Like Tasha K pays for interviews, but like ABC, CBS, the mainstream media doesn't pay for interviews because the concern is that if you pay, you're not going to get the truth. You're just going to get something salacious like tabloids get because people want the payment. But instead, what mainstream media sources will do is they will coordinate the interview with you having something to promote. So a new movie, a product, whatever. AUSA, no further questions. That was quick. Cross. Did you assist Miss Ventura for any red carpet events? Possibly in some music video, like Black and Yellow with Khalifa. Defense, we have photos. 647, please. It's from a video shoot. The defense, the goal was that she looked put together. Yes. These photos show your artistry. You reposted them on Instagram. Yes. You were in her hotel room, though, although you live near. Yes. You met Miss Ventura's family, her father. You called a doctor and A lawyer. The lawyer lives in San Francisco. You provided emotional support. Yes. Oh, see, that's clever. I said, oh, yeah, okay, on prosecution, you just talked about calling a doctor, but you call a lawyer, i.e., setting up. Oh, you were looking for some change. You were looking for some coins for her, huh? Defense says, you did an interview with CNN. I have that interview, guys, for us during one of the breaks. We can watch it. You did an interview with CNN and with Extra TV, Don Lemon and Pierce Morgan. Yes. Did Dateline reach out to you? She said, I don't look at those anymore. Did you ask the government if you could do more? Look at this. So you asked permission to speak to Dateline. Of course I asked. After the incident, neither Mr. Combs or anyone from his company ever approached you. She said, no one did. For a documentary, were you paid? She says, therapy. What the hell does that mean? She says, therapy. I'll find out. You sold the photos to CNN for $1,000. Yes. No further questions. Next witness. That's it. That was quick. We through with her. Next witness, Frederick Zamora, the general manager of Le Hermitage Hotel, LA. All right, hold on, just real quick before we hop to him. It's like 15 minutes, so we got more than enough time. So that one, I don't feel like I got a lot from that. Yeah, I agree, Creative J. They need to move on from Cassie. Well, not move on from Cassie. Hold on, I'm going to say it different. They need to set up some more stuff. They need to set up more. If you're going to reinforce some things, I think it's time to start reinforcing the witness tampering, reinforce the distribution of the narcotics. Some of the other ways to get to RICO that they should work on reinforcing those. Y'all let me know. What do you think in the chat? Because the thing is, Cassie's issues permeate a lot of the others, but overall, it seems like the purpose of this of Morales, the makeup artist, was to establish that she had been assaulted, that she was so scared that she hid out at Miss Morales's home, that she was hurt so severely that a doctor had to be called. She did confirm that there was a 2010 hotel incident. And it wasn't mine. Also, it did say she did confirm she didn't call the police when she saw Miss Ventura injured because she did fear for her life. Okay, so let's move on. The next witness is someone that works at this particular hotel. All right, so that is Mr. Zamir. He is being very clear. He is here because he received a subpoena. He's a hotel worker, so there's probably no need to give him any form of immunity. He's there through his job. It says, are you familiar with the hotel's reservation system? We have a system called Opera. We enter in personal preferences. How long do they keep them? They stay forever. It says how, but it's probably who reserved this room for Sean Combs? Ryan Lopez. Also, other names were used. When was this profile first created? In 2006. It said Sean Combs and Bad Boy Records. Then they changed it to Jackie Star. You hear that? Sean Combs, Bad Boy Records. They're looping in the enterprise. It said then they changed it to Jackie Star. Jackie Star is Cassie's alias. All right. And let me take down this banner because we done. That was too quick. We're done. We've got the hotel worker. Oh, no. Now we got a hotel worker that's taking the stand. All right. Then they say, the reservation. What is the bill? It says over $2,000. It says only charge if Christina Karam approves. What were the instructions? Put the room out of service for cleaning. Likes the room hot. Set it for 75 degrees. What in the holy hell? So you like to sleep around? Let me shut up. I have a homegirl who to like sleeping with it hot. We go to conferences like in school, like law school conferences, and she was African. I always wondered. I was like, girl, is this because you're Nigerian? Do you like feeling like you back home? Because it feels like Africa. Mm. But this is important because it's also establishing that the prostitution, the freak offs, and they're probably ultimately going to connect the distribution of substances at those FOs was at the instruction, knowledge, or collaboration with Christina Karam and Diddy. So you would put the room out of service for cleaning. They like the room hot. What are these complaints? Candle wax on carpet, security called, charge $500. No further questions, judge. Cross-examination, none. Next witness, Special Agent Josh Croft. All right, what'd you guys get from that? Y'all look at my face. Yeah. I'm not even gonna bother. Just forget even making these banners. This is the second time the defense chooses not to do a cross. Probably because they're like, there's nothing to see here. There's already been discussion. I think that was wise of them. The jury gets bored. The jury gets irritated. It's already been known that they use candles. They set the mood. They're freaks. There's nothing freaky about candles. I've got one over here in the corner right now because I ate a burrito in the room. Yeah, there's not much to see here aside from, I think the importance there is that the strength of Christina Karam. Literally no hotel bill could be approved without her. That was in the instructions. I'd say that's the significance, is just building up her significance so that when she does testify, there are multiple people corroborating her power. Next agent is Special Agent Croft. Where do you work? Homeland Security Investigations, which is HSI. I extract data from computers. Ooh, this could be good. What's your training? The SANS Institute. What does it stand for? I don't really know. They're opaque in that way. He says, what do you mean you don't know? Oh gosh, we see, these are the kind of experts I've been wanting to hear from. Because again, y'all, we still got to find out. We all want to know how in the heck hit that like button, guys, as you're coming in. We all want to know how in the heck did Cassie's hotel video, did they obtain it? Did CNN get it? Did whoever got it get it? And I have a feeling it may have been obtained during one of the raids of his properties. Excuse me. Because he likes to keep certain things for blackmail. It says, why can't the pros link before letting the witness go? Like how it links to charges. Yeah, that's what I was just doing it. That's what I just did. So the link to charges for the prior witness, which was the hotel worker, the link was that the enterprise was setting up the rooms, setting up the functions. That then makes the enterprise responsible if crimes have been committed during those hotel escapades. It's argued that those hotel escapades included transportation for prostitution and included distribution of substances. So that was the hotel worker. Prior to that was the makeup artist. The makeup artist was trying there to establish what they call coercion. Okay. There we go. Exactly. That's the criteria for weekend. They know they're not proving anything but DV at this point, Abby. Okay. All righty. I think if DV were the issue, I think they wouldn't need to reference KK. Because KK is basically, she holds the purse strings. She pays for the hotel rooms. She pays for this. She pays for that. And by her being an employee of the enterprise, that's how they're connecting those activities to the enterprise. But good question. All right. So then we've got the HSI worker. Let's update this. Okay, we're still waiting for an update from him. But also keep in mind, With I said before I was going to play the makeup artist video. I might play that while we're waiting a little bit later. Because part of the challenge with the makeup artist stuff is that all I know is whatever she talked about in them interviews, seems like she must not have gotten too much of it into this testimony because it sure went fast. You know, we heard about the activities, not just the activities, but we heard about, sorry. Yeah, we heard about the the fight and how after the hotel room, she came and she basically allowed Cassie to take refuge in her home. She hid Cassie for a while. That's been established. That's got it. We got it. But again, we need new stuff at this point, I'd say. So, all right, the government has called him. Prosecutor's questioning him. We are now at the 16th witness. So Mr. Croft, who is a computer forensics plural agent, is on the stand. Now it's probably taking a minute to load more text because he's probably going through, like, because the last question was, what's your training? He's probably going through training and no one cares. Like, Inner City Press knows. We don't care about that. What we want to know is, what the hell did you find on his devices? Come on. Tell us about the blackmail. Tell us about the porn. Who's doing it to who? Give us the goods. Give us the goods. Hold on, let's see if I can find, here we are. As we're waiting for an update on the text.
Morales. She's a former makeup artist for Diddy and also Cassie Ventura, working for Diddy for years and eventually becoming a friend of Cassie's. In 2010, Mila alleges that she heard Cassie being physically abused and was a witness to the aftermath of the alleged attack. She joins me now.
I'm going to just pause that. All right. We get it. I feel like we get it, guys, right? We get it. I think we get it. The reason I'm pausing it is because I don't want to get a copyright strike for something that's going to be repetitive. I want us to learn more about the facts, not just kind of continuing to repeat the same thing. At this point, I don't think there's any dispute that Cassie has been abused. No dispute. But I do want to remind people that her strongest proof of the abuse was that hotel video, and that by Diddy making it disappear, he ruined any opportunity for her to obtain DV justice because the statute of limitations expired by the time it came back out. The video came back out, whether it was to CNN or whatever, because that statute of limitations, it happened in March of 2016, meaning the statute of limitations expired 5 years later, March of 2021. That video did not come out until May of 24. That means by the time it was released, Cassie couldn't go to court for DV because the time frame had lapsed. So while the defense gets to get up there and say, no DV, no DV, it seems really unfortunate to allow the very person who committed crimes to make it go away, witness tampering, destruction of evidence, to then benefit from the fact that he destroyed that. That speaks to his power, though. So currently there's a computer forensics agent on the stand. I'm hoping we get some juice from him, because after he goes into the little soliloquy as to his education, I think he's going to tell us about what juicy stuff he done found on those computers. Found with a T. Here we are. Okay. All right. We want this update. All right. What do you mean you don't know? It says. All right. Now, according to CNN, I want to hear what CNN says overall. See if there's anything new and added regarding the hotel. So CNN is saying, with the Beverly Hills Hotel, it says, these are the notes the hotel put in Combs's profile. The jury notes what the hotel associates with the Diddy profile. It says, please monitor outside of his room as well as down the hall to spray air freshener. Basically, he wants to smell amazing as he just walks down the hall. It says, he always spills candle wax on everything and uses excessive amounts of oil, places the room out of order upon departure for deep cleaning. Bounce that, make your knees touch your elbows. That's literally what it makes me think of. There must have all kinds of things happening there. Police authorize an extra $1,000 when the guest stays with us to cover any room damages, because there's always damages. That is so gross. It also says the jury was shown hotel records for a profile initially created under his name and then changed to Cassie's alias Jackie Starr in 2009, which is probably when he started bringing her there. The general manager at the hotel said, it's the Hermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills. It says the name was changed multiple times to Sean Combs, Frank White, or even Frank Black. Around 2011 and 12, he testified. And in 19, the name was changed to Ryan Lopez. So Frank White, which was Biggie's alias, or Frank Black, Biggie. Oh, gosh. Oh, boy. The GM said that hotel. Okay. The records go back to, oh, hey, he loves that place, it seems. Jesus. How gross. That tickled me that it said that there are, when he leaves, there are excessive amounts of baby, always spills candle wax, it says on everything, and uses excessive amounts of oil, placed the room out of order upon his departure for deep clean. In other words, they're like, we knew what he was in here doing nasty stuff, but he's him and he pays. And so we're going to move on. All right. What's the training? Okay. What training did you get? Sands Institute. What does it stand for? I don't really know. Then it says they're referring to a computer apparently that they obtained from Diddy's premises. What tools did you use? TX1 and Digital Collector. Whose laptops did you extract? Oh, correction, Cassie's. Cassie Ventura. This is a MacBook Pro, roughly from 2010 or 2011 with a white case. Did you boot it up? I got to the MacBook factory default screen, but you got data. Yes, the hard drive had data that was not overwritten by the factory reset. Okay, I'm less excited about this because it's Cassie's stuff, but we want to hear it. Cassie did not deserve the beatings. Of course, no one is claiming she did, because we're trying to kill racism. Okay. Yeah, pull up the messages. It says, got it. Also, can I clarify something? Can we just be real for a minute? Because I want you to always be real with me. I don't do fake. Which is that when we were talking this morning, so I did 2 videos this morning. The Kid Cudi testimony was this morning. The Kid Cudi video, and we were talking about Kid Cudi felt like he had been played because he thought Cassie was completely done with Diddy when she started dating him, only to find out that wasn't the case. First of all, we don't know that wasn't the case. It sounded like to Cassie, it was the case. When it was December, remember this was December of 11. December of 11 is when I believe they were actually done due to the fact that Diddy was so mad he blackmailed the family. However, I think it is irresponsible of me to not clarify. Those are new watching me. I can be silly. I'm a serious attorney when I'm with my friends or when I'm talking off the cuff about the law. I try to make it digestible, fun, and interesting. And just in this instance, I don't believe there's any such thing as Cassie cheating on Diddy. Let's just be very clear. There is no Cassie cheating on Diddy. You cannot cheat on someone you're not in a committed relationship with. And you certainly can't cheat on someone who's got 4 or 5 other girlfriends and whips your tail. Honestly, even if you didn't have any other girlfriends and he whipped your tail, you need to be moving on. So regardless, I think saying, oh, Diddy was mad because she was cheating on him, like, it was a very creative way for the defense to describe things for the reason that we're repeating it, right? That we're talking about it now. But there was no cheating on Cassie's side because there was no monogamy on Diddy's side. You can only cheat on someone if you guys are monogamous with each other. Instead, what he wanted was, I control, I get to do what I want, and you wait for me to want to deal with you. That's not okay. The defense did some damage, it said, on cross-examination of Kid Cudi. Someone was saying. Legal experts said, okay. Double standard. They need to side-eye Diddy. Right. Cassie dated Kid Cudi for 1 year, not 1 month. Yeah, it was definitely more than a month. I am with you in that, Simone. That man has 5 other girlfriends. I blocked that Coco Melon character. Got it. It says right on either side. Yeah, there were a lot. You can't cheat on a girl. Jamia says, you can't cheat on a cheater. Exactly. There'll be. Yeah, they do rephrase it. Yeah, you can't cheat on a cheater. Let's remind ourselves that, guys. Tell yourself, you can't cheat on a cheater. It's not cheating in an abusive relationships, but there is danger. Oh, for sure. She was playing with a dangerous game by even entertaining Cudi. Yeah, this is just the kind of person, like, if there's anything that some people can get to just share with your daughters who might be younger and in these situations, is when you're ready, first of all, hopefully you never get in one. But if you do, don't be afraid to incorporate the people who love you most to come up with a safe exit strategy. No, literally, it's call me. We're going to be like Harriet Tubman, and you're going to be part of the Underground Railway. One time I was dating this guy. He was loony freaking toony. He seemed fine. He was a doctor. I met him through my other doctor homeboy. He seemed like he had sense. I knew I should have known something was up because he was a white Sigma. I don't know about no white Sigmas, but anyway, back to the topic. Hold on one second. This is the court. Okay, gotcha. Sorry. We're trying to serve someone and they keep trying to escape service. Remind me to tell y'all my story. Let me see if they've updated it. My story about I use really cute process servers. Okay, we're still waiting. I'm gonna tell you my little sidebar. As we're waiting for updated texts. So I've had different times when I've needed to serve men who would be defendants on behalf of my clients. So at one point, this was years ago, this was before she had children, cute little April, she's not little, she's a grown woman, but April, who has the children with Omarion. There was a DJ I represented a DJ named DJ Chaotic. And there was another DJ in our same town, which was Dallas, who was calling himself DJ Chaotic. And I was like, we're not doing that. We have our trademark, etc. Well, I kept sending the fake DJ Chaotic cease and desist letters, and he was not responding. So I was like, I got something for it. I was going to have him hand delivered. So it just so happened that April happened to be in town. And so I was like, hey, April, can I hire you for a quick little gig? She was like, well, what is it? And I was like, I'm going to pay you. I want you to get cute. She was in town and she was already like going to go out and go to a club. So I'm going to pay you to go to this club. I'm going to pay for your cover. I'm going to pay for your drinks. I just need you to walk in real cute, go to the DJ booth and say, hey, is DJ Chaotic here? And then have them take you to his booth and then you serve him. So she sure did. Because they were like, oh yeah, because she's so beautiful. They were like, yeah, sure, right this way. I'll take you to him. Move the velvet rope. Come on up here. And she was like, excuse me, are you DJ Chaotic? And he was like, yes. And she was like, you've been served. Let me tell you, so if you're ever having difficulty serving someone, go find you a beautiful woman. If it's a man, go find you a beautiful woman. Find you a beautiful woman. Because those men they're not stupid, but men think with their eyes sometimes when you're that beautiful and you can get into places that an ugly mail process server cannot. All right, the hard drive. It says he was able to get data that was not overridden by the factory reset. He says, what is unallocated space on a computer? It says something that's not viewable, but something previously deleted. Explain how computers store data. It's like you have a table of contents. A file can still be stored in an unallocated space. I've learned this from Dateline. So get to the crux. What we want to know is, well, what was in that space? Are these going to be S tapes? Like get us to the gist. Got it. Get us to the gist. Yes, I got a new jail cell. We got to switch it up because we don't know exactly what's going to happen or where it's going to be. But here, he wants a high five, y'all. Give Diddy a high five in the cell as we're waiting. Yes. Why was there no video of Kid Cudi's car on fire by him or home surveillance? Because they don't have to. Well, he said that when they started their testimony, they started by saying that the first thing he noticed was that his cameras had been moved and they weren't working. So that was that. Or did he the car? That they weren't working. And now also, hold on, let's see. They started by saying that the cameras had been moved. That was the first thing that he noticed. Cameras have been, and it's Diddy. He knows. He can't be caught on camera doing anything like that. That's just too darn obvious. Yeah, I found a new jail cell. Mm-hmm. Somebody said, yeah, I'm dangerous. Yep, I sure will. I will find a pretty girl to serve you. I mean, no, if you having trouble serving your baby daddy, you having trouble serving your soon-to-be ex-husband, call me. It's a pretty girl in that city somewhere. And here's the thing, depending on what is being served, it does not have to be a licensed person. It just depends on what's being served. Anybody can serve a cease and desist. He said that in court too. Yeah, he said in court that his cameras were moved. That was the first thing that he noticed. They were moved and cut, correct? Yeah. Hit that subscribe, guys, and hit that like as you're coming in. We are waiting for an update. Currently is a federal computer forensics expert testifying as to what they pulled from Cassie's 2010 or 2011 computer. We are still waiting. So as we wait for that, let me play a little bit more of this little clip from Old Girl. This is the makeup artist. Here we go. This is the makeup artist talking about what she experienced.
Mila, thank you so much for being here. This has been, for so many people, illuminating, infuriating, troubling, devastating. You can go down the list of things, but it's so difficult to speak about.
I know.
Being a witness of anything. Tell me how you must be feeling just knowing that this has even come to light.
Well, I have kept this secret for like 14 years. I mean, the first time I experienced it was 2010, and I was in the hotel room when Puff came in, and I had no idea Cassie left. And when I woke up, I just saw his presence come into the room. They went into the bedroom and shut the door, and all I could hear is screaming and yelling and whatever was going on in there, I don't know. But all I could think of was to grab Cassie's things and start packing it up and just getting her out to safety.
There we go. Now, hold on. We're going to go back. Here we go. We're going to go back to check for updates. Okay. So basically, she's reconfirming. Here's something that came to my mind. She's reconfirming, what we know about the abuse and those aspects. Here, let me come over to the side. And those aspects. But what I'm thinking is, as far as the trafficking components of it, I think actually what the prosecution may end up needing to bring it more together is likely going to be testimony from someone like Capricorn Clark or KK, remember those are two different people, to really give an understanding of how the enterprise, if at all, was a part of it, if that's the thing. But keep in mind, they can get days and the prosecution can get a conviction even without the trafficking. So as I'm looking at this, they can do it. They can do it either way. And both of them deal with life sentences. All right, here we are. We're got an update. It says, so here we are. There we go. So on these 3 laptops, how are they backed up? iTunes was used before there was iCloud. Some look a little funky. We're gonna also update this with what CNN is reporting and Washington Post. It says iTunes was used before iCloud. Some looks a little funky, but you can validate the funky, as you say, data by going to the raw data. Yes, nothing further. Girl, what is girl, what? No, okay. That did nothing for us. All right. Specifically, let me share. CNN is saying data extracted from the laptop. Croft, the expert with computer forensics agent with Homeland Security, testified he extracted data from 3 of Cassie's laptops. He said one of them had been set to factory default and another open to a login screen with user profiles for Frank Black and a guest. The 3rd laptop, which had some dents and bents, wouldn't power on, he said. Interestingly, they're going to begin to cross him. But interestingly, this is what CNN is saying about Kid Cudi. He said the defense did some damage on cross of Kid Cudi. Legal experts are saying rapper Kid Cudi's testimony that his car was blown up in his driveway while he was dating Cassie did not prove that Diddy was behind the arson, a defense attorney and legal expert Misty Maris said. In the cross of Kid Cudi, defense attorneys were able to cast doubt on claims that Combs and his co-conspirators were involved in the car fire. The defense did some damage on cross, the expert says, because there was no direct evidence that Combs was involved. There was never an arrest. There was never a prosecution related to that accident. By the way, we wouldn't be here if there was ever an arrest or a prosecution related to that. We wouldn't be here because some people would feel like, oh, there was levels of justice. Anyway, that's just my thought. Maris said Kid Cudi testified he never saw who blew his car up or had any direct information about it. He just believed it to be Combs because he thought Combs was, quote, violent. The arson incident, legal experts said, is a key piece of the prosecution's argument that Combs ran a criminal enterprise consisting of violent behavior, trafficking, and the procurement of narcotics. Combs has pleaded not guilty, obviously. But here's what I'll say to that. First of all, they're right. They absolutely did poke a hole in that. But I think who's going to fill that hole up somewhat is going to be Capricorn Clark. If Capricorn gets on that stand and says that Diddy forced her into a car, kidnapped her, forced her to direct him to that man's house, one, that might help prove the burglary or trespass, however you want to see it, burglary or trespass. The difference is burglary is supposed to be like without permission. Well, both are without permission, but burglary is supposed to be breaking and entering. They're using the word trespass because the claim is that the door was open. There was no forced entry evidence. But if she gets up on that stand and she says, Diddy forced me, he dragged out of Cassie the address, forced me to take him to the house, ride in there and take him to the house. And then afterwards, I heard others that work with Diddy laugh and talk about the arson. That can be sufficient for some of the jurors to find that there is sufficient proof of the arson. Remember, reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt, it can be defined. It's different for each person, but it's basically the amount of doubt where a person can be like, no, I feel like it could be someone else. So at the end of the day, there may be some jurors. I think there's going to be some jurors that say, no, that's good enough. It wasn't nobody else. The time frames, it was so tight. That was him. And it may be others who need to wait and see about how Diddy maneuvers throughout the criminal enterprise before he feels confident enough. Like, yeah, that seems like that's got Diddy's MO to it, right? But there were decent questions asked, but I still think they could get to the arson. It's going to be contingent, I believe, on Capricorn Clark's testimony and the testimony of anyone else in the enterprise who can make some comment or commentary about being aware of anyone else that participated in the arson. Not just getting Diddy to Kid Cudi's house. That's not good enough. That getting Diddy to Kid Cudi's house, I believe, would be good enough if the claim was the burglary. I think that could get us to the burglary. But I think with the arson, we need a little some more. What are you guys thinking? Jay Wadley says, I'm following what you're saying. I need a bit more evidence. I said the same thing. I think they've done enough with Kid Cudi's testimony. There was enough there. Y'all tell me. I feel like there was enough there to get to a burglary. Specifically, what was testified to is that Diddy was at Kid Cudi's house and Cudi called him. And because Cudi called him and he said, I'm at your house. And when Cudi gets there, the cameras have been moved. Someone has been in the house, rummaged through things. They took his dog, locked his dog in the bathroom. Someone did something to his dog. So I think, and Diddy apologized. Now, part of the question is, was the apology for the break-in and entry? Was it for the arson? Was it for all? What he said, what Kid Cudi said is that when he ultimately, years later, when he met with Diddy, Diddy had apologized, but he said, what about my car? And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, he looked at Diddy, he was like, I knew he was lying. But again, I think they have enough to get to burglary or trespass of Kid Cudi's apartment. I'd say a yes to that. Y'all let me know in the chat. Do you think there was enough to get to a burglary or trespass at Kid Cudi's house? But I do think we need a little bit more to get to that arson. What y'all think? The fact that Snuff Daddy was at his house. And when I say to get there, oh girl, who is not on the jury, if I were on the jury, I'd be like, yeah, that boy did that. No one else think about what arson is, guys. Arson is a threat. It's a violent act. It's something you do to play a mind game with someone. There's no way arson is not accidental. They cut a hole in the top of his convertible and dropped a Molotov cocktail in there. So one of the other things in using reasonable doubt to decide, did Diddy or someone else do it, is it would have been good if the defense were able to perhaps elicit testimony from Cudi that would have said that he was also in disputes or had issues with anyone else. And therefore, perhaps that was the person who did it, because it's somebody that set your stuff on fire. They mad at you. I gave you the example this morning. My daddy sent that lady car on fire, whatever, in the middle of the night. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was injured. And the statute of limitations is expired. It happened before I was even born. We're good. But him, like, that is someone who's livid with him at that time frame, which was early January of 2012. Diddy was livid with him. So livid, Diddy blackmailed old girl's parents. Blackmailed Cassie's parents. Yes, Diddy paid someone to do it. That's true. That's the other thing that I think when they close it out in closing arguments and they discuss it, Diddy didn't do it. But they have to be clear. Diddy didn't do it. I would say that for the prosecution, Diddy didn't do it. But he directed it. And because Diddy don't do nothing. Diddy doesn't buy his own baby oil. So if you think the evidence that you're expecting to see is that Diddy himself bought some matches and went to the property and was on a camera and lit the car, if that's what you're expecting to see, you'll never see it. And Diddy would never be found guilty of any crime in his lifetime. Diddy's MO, he don't buy his own toilet tissue. He don't buy his own floss. He doesn't buy his own Astroglide. Where's my Astroglide? Here you go. He doesn't buy his own Astroglide. Okay, we got our Astroglide. He doesn't do anything on his own. Therefore, yeah, it is about proof. But you guys forget, proof can be in circumstantial evidence. You have to decide what would make the most sense as a juror. Which set of facts makes the most sense, would be the most reasonable under these facts? All right, so let's get an update here. All right, now we're on cross defense. One of those laptops, there was a Frank Black profile. Yes. Did you process every file? Yes. Have a wonderful weekend, defense says. AUSA, Frank Black, did you proceed under Miss Ventura's consent? They said under a warrant. Let's see what they're trying to get to with that. And we're also going to go back to CNN for updates. I really like the CNN updates. The part of the challenge is I don't know what they found on the darn thing. So it's difficult to process how helpful this testimony is in this moment. So I want to give you, for each person that takes the stand, thank you guys for watching. I'm Attorney Simone, your legal bestie. And for each person that takes the stand, I want to be able to tell you how you might place this testimony as a juror, if you were a juror. And at the end, I'm going to try and work on a chart where it lists each witness, maybe one day, maybe one of my jurors can help me, where it lists each witness and then perhaps list like a check mark next to of the predicate offenses, which ones their testimony was supposed to work towards. Yeah. So again, here we are. Okay, so there's 2 logins, one Frank Black, one was Cassie. I'm just not under, because I don't know what's on there. I don't know whether we care and the value just yet. Let me see what CNN is saying about it. Jury is dismissed and the trial resume on Tuesday. Okay. Court is dark tomorrow for the holiday. Good for him. I'm glad the judge did that. Gave the jury strict instructions to avoid all conversations and media coverage of the case over the weekend. That basically means if you're a juror, go ahead, delete social media from your computer. Just delete it. I mean, from your phone, so you're not tempted. The defense started the cross of the computer forensics agent. It was totally boring. Terry Garagos is asking him questions on cross. And I'll be honest with you, because I don't know what's on those computers, I just don't know the value. Yep. Here we go. Yeah, because we couldn't see what was on those laptops. So let's see what we got here. Hey, Peggy Sue. It says, why Cassie needs to take him. Cassie gave him the address. Oh, okay. Why did Capricorn need to take Diddy to the house when Cassie gave the address? That's a good question. That is a good question. Yeah, that was a crazy little cliffhanger. Let's see. Thank you so much for that super chat, Peggy says. Safe place. It says Diddy acts like a pimp. Thank you for that super sticker. Good question. I was kind of wondering that too. Why would Capricorn need to take Diddy over to the house if Cassie had given the address? Maybe it was taking too long to get the address out of Cassie, or maybe Cassie first gave a wrong address. I don't know, guys. I don't know, but this was a lot. So let's do a recap today via RICO. And I'm going to definitely try to answer any of your questions you guys have yet. Academics read this stuff already yesterday. Their conversations are pretty interesting. Which ones? Between who and who? Let me know. Miss O, between who and who? Oh, Ronald, as a first-year law student, let's see. The government has a weak case, in your opinion, and the defense is doing a great job on cross for the trial. Okay, what do you think? Which of the counts of the state, if you're still here, Ronald, which of the prosecution's counts do you think is the strongest and which is the weakest? I'm pretty sure you're going to say S trafficking would be the weakest. What, if anything, would you say would be the strongest? I think a lot of times when I see people say, I don't see a case here, what I ask, especially like my homeboys, I say, well, they'll say, there's no RICO. I said, well, what's RICO? Crickets. Or they give you a version that can be, but they're not realizing there's other ways to also prove RICO. So I definitely understand that there can be confusion there. Okay. Let's see. All right, guys. So as a first year law student, another person in law school that says, that is making me lose face. Hold on. We are not ugly here. Speaking of law school, can I please clarify something for you guys? Yo, not a hater. So I do a webinar it's called You're Not Too Grown, It's Not Too Late for Law School, where literally I do a coaching program where I help people who are what's called non-traditional students, meaning, you didn't just recently graduate undergrad, who are considering going to law school. Because I'm big on helping you come up with a plan so that you can make the most money when you graduate, that it's the best value for you. Well, yesterday, it was posted on social media that Kim Kardashian graduated from law school. Let me be clear. No, she didn't. What happened was California is the only state that allows you to do a self-study program effectively, where you, without a bachelor's degree, that is the only state that allows you to practice law. In fact, it's primarily used by California prisoners. California prisoners, while they're sitting in prison, bored, hot, with nothing to do, they go to law school online, or they were mailed books. Correspondence course is what it's called. That is what Kim Kardashian did, because she's never gone to undergrad. Therefore, it was incorrect. She didn't graduate. She put on a cap and gown, invited her friends and family over, and in her backyard, they gave her a graduation ceremony to celebrate her completing her studies to be able to sit for the California bar. So what she completed was basically the equivalent of like their self-study program. So I say that to say, anyone who's interested in going to law school, awesome. California is the one state. You don't even have to live in California. That's what's kind of cool. You don't have to live in California to do that California program. You can do it from wherever you want. You just do those programs. You learn what needs to be learned, and then you would sit for the California bar exam whenever you're ready. If you pass it, then you could choose to move to California and practice law. Your challenge will be, of course, getting someone to hire you. You have to work as an apprentice first under a law firm, which is kind of like being a paralegal. But I certainly encourage that. I just don't want to mislead people into thinking that there is a way without a bachelor's degree for you to fast track going and graduating to law school. That's not the case. And it's not a school. It's literally just a California program. So if you possibly go to the California State Bar, pull up California State Bar has the ability to do that. Someone is listing in the chat, Southwestern Law School may have something like that. But is this Celebrity Scandalous? I wrote this. Yes. Hey, girl. Says California Bar is very difficult. So good luck to her. Let me clarify this too. You know why the California Bar is so difficult? It is listed as the most difficult bar in the nation. Behind that is New York, and behind that is Texas. Guess which two of the three I've passed my first time I took it? First, I took New York. I took New York and New Jersey, and then I took Texas 3 years later. Here's the funny thing. California Bar, when you look at the pass rates, has the lowest pass rates of any state in America. Not because it's the hardest. It is hard. But it's because people who never went to law school are taking it. So if you look at their pass rates and you pull out the people who didn't actually go to law school, the pass rate is what and what with New York and Texas. It might actually be easier to pass New York than it is California for those of us that actually went to law school. So I say that to say anybody who actually went to law school and is taking the California bar, it's not too difficult. Like, you got this. You got this. Oh, good. They just announced the witnesses for next week. Okay, let's see. But yes, I just wanted to be clear. She didn't graduate law school. This is not hating on her. I think it's not nice. It's not good. Like, I don't know if she did it or if social media did it, but someone posted photos of her in like a cap and a gown next to Harvard and was like, she graduated from Harvard Law. Like, don't play that. Trust me, if she could get into Harvard Law, she would. It says the next witness called after the holiday weekend will be another. Y'all. I could put y'all. KK. It's KK. It's KK. Sorry, no, not sorry, Capricorn Clark. It's not KK. That's Christina Karaman. It's Capricorn Clark. Capricorn Clark. This order, this setup by the prosecution, chef's kiss, brilliant. You want Capricorn to start after what? Kid Cudi. Because you needed Kid Cudi to set up the fact that when they asked him, what makes you think Diddy did it? She said, because Capricorn Clark told me. She called me on the phone and said, Diddy's on his way to my house. And then she told me, this is what he said. She told me that, sorry, how do I say? She told me that he basically kidnapped her into his car and forced her to show Diddy where he lived. I gotta get my butt in place on Tuesday. Oh, get information like Beyonce, baby. I got to get information. You know what? Y'all know what? I might try to be there. Here's why. I'm going to be already up in that area. And I'm a little instructed. That's fine. I'm going to already be up in that area. So I am going to try. So if you don't see me here, it's maybe because I'm in that courtroom. I will let you guys know either way. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Hit that subscribe right now. If I'm there, what we'll do is I'll probably do like a little video on my YouTube from me in line. Then when lunch happens, I'll give you guys a lunch update. And then, of course, the evening. Capricorn Clark. I read a little bio from her before. The gist of it is she was the Combs Global Brand Director. She was the Combs Global Brand Director. She did so much for him. She was like his right-hand woman. She did branding. She did a plethora of deals. And she herself said on her, what page? On her Insta page, she discussed how, gosh, how do you say the word for it? Basically how 2011 was hell for her. That was when this occurred. That was when this went down. So, oh yeah, sure. I'll put her picture back up. No problem. Oh yeah, I'm visual, y'all. Yeah, I'm visual. This is this little cutie patootie. This is her right here. Make sure you guys can see it. I'll make it a little bigger here. That's Capricorn Clark. She looks different in that picture. She's extremely well educated. And she's not Lauren London's sister, but she's her play sister. You know, Black people, we like to have play siblings, which are our bestest friend. She is the bestest friend of Lauren London. Yes, attorney believe. Do I believe that KK will be subpoenaed? Oh, I know that she's going to be subpoenaed. KK, yes. I know that KK is subpoenaed, will be subpoenaed, and that she's probably only going to testify under immunity. Because with her being so close, right up under Diddy, and you saw how they're setting it up, baby. They're setting it up. The hotel worker today that testified, that hotel worker, and yes, this is the jail cell behind me, guys. That hotel worker set up and said that the notes in the system said that no charges can be approved without KK. They are establishing her power and her authority so that her testimony weighs heavily. So my expectation, KK will be one of the last witnesses on the prosecution side that's going to have immunity. They're going to leave her towards the end. What you want to do is you want to leave towards the end the strongest witnesses for your side. You want to leave them to the end so that it's one of the last things that the jury hears from. Basically, you got your closers. Let's think of this, guys. Think of it like running the 4x4, right? The 4x4 running a relay. You put the person that you need to shut it down, bring it on home at the end. You want to open. They opened with Cassie because they had to lay the foundation of facts for other people to build on, brick by brick by brick. And then that brick is being built and built and built. And then they're going to have KK put the crown on it, put the Christmas tree. Put the star on the Christmas tree. So you got to build up the Christmas tree, right? You got to put them lights on the Christmas tree. Hang the ornaments. Put them ornaments on that bad boy. And then you're gonna put the tree at the end, or the black Santa. We have black Santa in my house, or the black Jesus, or the whatever. Yes, it was alleged that Diddy kidnapped her. Hold on, let me put the indictment back on the screen. This is important because I want you to see the words from the indictment. This is why I think she is going to speak of kidnapping. I could be wrong. I'm gonna just tell you my thought process as an attorney where we're at. And yes, this is, see, Diddy wants a high five. Doop, doop. Psych. Psych. Get that out of there. All right. This is, okay, these are the racketeering charges, right? Under racketeering A through H, they only have to prove 2 of them. I've gone through that before in order to prove RICO. But B, you said, is actually, hold on. Wait, guys. B is arson, but I am just now realizing it actually says multiple aspects involving arson, chargeable under the following provisions of the law, California Penal Code, blah, 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 which is attempt, hold on. It says attempt, aiding and abetting, meaning Diddy didn't do the arson himself. They are not saying he did it. They're saying he aided and abetted someone else who did, and conspiracy. He conspired with someone else to do it. So that means there's more than one act of arson. That's interesting. We've heard of only one. Huh. Okay. But also A, right here, A, it says multiple acts of kidnapping. Peep this, y'all. Chargeable under the following provisions of state law. California Code, kidnapping. And then you see that below, New York, kidnapping. I think Capricorn is going to speak to California kidnapping because the incident with Kid Cudi would be, it took place in California and would be considered kidnapping if Diddy, in fact, forced her into the car and forced her to direct him, Diddy, to Kid Cudi's house. That would be that would be kidnapping. Are you guys following me? Are you following me? I'm looking at the comments. So there must be refutable evidence that someone can attest to Snuff Daddy blowing up. Refutable. Well, I think all evidence is refutable. If you mean irrefutable, then no, it's not that either. It doesn't need to be irrefutable. No, that's not. Thank you for asking. Hold on, let me put that question up. No, it doesn't. I think you meant refutable. So okay. So if you're saying refutable, the evidence presented today would be considered refutable, meaning could be not. Irrefutable means direct, it's clear, there's no way anyone else did it, there's no questions asked. So no, it doesn't have to be irrefutable. It just has to, the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he conspired or aided or abetted. So let me pull this down so people can see the words. I want you to see the exact words of what he's got to do. Thank you. I love you guys are really smart. I really appreciate your really good questions. All right. The wording down here for the arson, down there at the very, very bottom, that they either attempted, attempt is like it wasn't successful, it was clearly successful, or that he aided or abetted or conspired. Conspire means you don't even have to be successful. Conspire means, like, if Capricorn Clark is able to get on that stand and say she overheard Diddy and anybody else talking about how he wanted to light that boy's ish up, that would be sufficient. Because that would be Diddy and another person conspiring and discussing how they're going to do it. And then that is considered circumstantial evidence unless she saw it for her own eyes. I'd be surprised if she saw it for her own eyes, but it could also be something like she was directed to go purchase a flamethrower. Somebody said, you're a paperwork hero. Thank you, Lisa. Oh yeah, Nadia, I think Capricorn is going to sing like a canary. Here's why Capricorn Clark, who is going to be the next witness on the stand on Tuesday, why I say next, they're going to finish with the current computer forensics nerd, and then it's going to be her. See, they don't want to start with her. No. You don't want to start with her and then go into a holiday weekend. It loses the momentum. Plus, you don't want to give the defense time to think up more questions or rebuttal. No, no, no. You start with her when you get back, when people are going to be fresh on Tuesday. Why didn't they have her testify right after Cudi? You guys are excellent with your questions. Because they knew there wasn't enough time to finish her. You don't want to split testimony like that over the weekend. No way, Jose. It's like giving away your strategy. Yes, Capricorn is a female. You want the most refreshed jury to hear what she's got to say. So you want the jury that's going to be rolling off the holiday. You see, today's Thursday. Today is Thursday, and they're not even trying to have these people come in tomorrow. They want them to be fresh on Tuesday. Also, this way, anybody who had a holiday didn't have to, if more than likely, if you had a trip planned, you're not going to have to cancel your trip just to deal with this. You're going to be able, everybody wanted to hear her. Yes. Oh, celebrity scandalous. Thank you for the super sticker. It says, I think the female DNA found at the scene of the crime could be hers because she was forced. The judge explained circumstantial evidence to us day one for the jury. That's right, because celebrity scandalous has been there. She was there. Celebrity scandalous. This is the example that I was using. Tell me your thoughts, celebrity scandalous, if you're still in the chat. This is the example that I use, guys, to help you understand, and my students to understand. I was a law school professor and a prior judge. Circumstantial evidence. Think of doing a 50-piece puzzle. You're doing a 50-piece puzzle and you're missing 3 pieces. You might be missing one over on the left side. Let me do this bigger. You might be missing one over on the left side, maybe one in the middle, maybe one on the right side. You're missing stuff. But you know that at the end of the day, what the puzzle is depicting is a fire truck. Even though you don't have those 3 pieces, you got enough to know that's a fire truck. It's not a whale. It's not a shark. It's not a gorilla. Even without those 3 pieces, it's a fire truck. That's how circumstantial evidence works. If you have enough, you feel comfortable, it'll allow you to pull together the pieces to make it make sense in a way. And if it's not good circumstantial evidence, then there's not enough there to make it make sense. It says, can Diddy's father's background be mentioned in closing? Hell no. That man is dead. He's not here. It's irrelevant. And let's praise God, because we all know we have family members, friends, people in our lives who are not fine, upstanding citizens. And one thing we should never be incarcerated for is who bore us, our parents, the things that are beyond our control. So I'm going to say no to that, because it's simply, it wouldn't be anything that would be within his control. And I think arguably it wouldn't be relevant and could be much more, because his daddy was a gangster, far more prejudicial than relevant. Thank you for asking, and thank you for that super chat. Black Girls Getting There, Shift Together. I've been on that podcast. I really enjoyed it. It says, because Puffy is so dangerous. Do I think anyone who testifies will be in witness protection? Actually, hold on. And I'm going to speak on that right now. Hold on. Give me one quick second. I'm just making an adjustment. I'm grabbing some more water. You want to hear this? Wait. All right. Here's the thing. Y'all, we gonna shake. This is important. Shake that Astro Glide. Whenever I don't have a bell, so whenever I got somewhere I want to be like, woo, 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 we gonna shake the Astro Glide, okay? Y'all hear it. Anyway, so yes, the prosecution is actually very concerned that Diddy will be messing with these witnesses. In fact, some of the most significant ones, like the named victims 1 through 5, named and addressed in the indictment, they have security with them. My understanding is there's security, and they even have trackers on them. Like, how you could have like a air tag so that they come up missing? Yes. Even like it's serious business, because word is, from my inside source, he has been tampering with witnesses. and I want him to get caught. So I want him to continue. So I don't want to speak too specifically on the kinds of tampering, but I'll say this because I've mentioned this before. Remember, tampering with witnesses is also one of the predicate offenses. It is number D, tampering with a witness, a victim, or an informant. I believe that he's continued to do this because you got to remember, Diddy doesn't play fair. He wins first, deals with consequences later. Think about how he won the lawsuit with the criminal case where he was facing time with Shine, and how he did that. He wasn't playing with, no, I don't know about tampering with jurors. I do know the allegation is tampering with actual witnesses. In addition, it's my understanding that one of the things that he's doing is that he's offering civil settlements, big time civil settlements to some of the key prosecution witnesses. And here's how he's doing it. Now, mind you, he's not responded to most of these people at all. Here's an example with John. Her lawsuit was filed last freaking September, which meant his answer was due around within like 30 days. He didn't file what needed. He hasn't filed anything but the day before she's supposed to testify, or the day she is supposed to testify, he files a motion to dismiss it. Well, what he's been doing with the civil witnesses, so that the ones that have civil lawsuits, is he's been going to them and he's been saying, listen, we'll give you some money, but here's how we're going to do it. We're going to give you a little bit right now, and then we'll give you the rest after the date of conviction. So he has actual provisions that say you're going to get a little bit, just a little bit to, wet your whistle so that hey, we're going to be good on this. Give you a little bit now, and then give you the rest of it after the date of conviction. Well, if you are being dangled 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is, right? And you are being told you're going to get the rest of it after the date of conviction, you think you're going to be eager to help get convicted? You really think somebody's going to help that man get convicted? Thank you so much, Ray Winsall, for that super sticker. Arbel, thank you as well. Y'all, my Cash App is at the bottom if you like that better, which is MISS Redwine, Miss Redwine, because I'm not married. Simone, I got picked for jury duty June 2nd, Bayhart County, and I want to be removed. First, I'm not exempt. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna speak to that shortly. Hold on. But so specifically, Diddy is going to those with civil cases. And I want you to think about it. Each of these people, these ladies, and even there's a gentleman, but I don't know that he's worried about the gentleman. It's the ones where he's worried about them testifying here. He's gone to their lawyers and he said, if you want to resolve this, we're open to it, but here's how we do the settlement. In doing that, it's clever, but I think it runs the line of ethical issues. Here's why. Because in his words, he's not saying don't testify, but you don't fucking have to. You don't have to say don't testify. If you're telling me the rest of my money will not be until after the date of conviction or the date of conviction, whatever it is, in my mind, I'm like, well, hell, if he gets convicted, he's probably not going to pay me and won't. And you can't do anything about it and won't. And then he would be able, if you were called to the stand by the prosecution on cross-examination, if the prosecution is trying to prove up tampering with a witness on cross-examination, what do you think Brian Steele is going to say? Brian Steele's going to say, were you ever instructed not to testify by any of the defense team? And you'd say, no, I was never told that. Were you ever discouraged from showing up here? No. Were you ever told to not respond to the subpoena? No. And this simply says you're going to get compensated after the date of conviction, correct? Yes, that's what I was understood. That's what my lawyer told me. And you know that there was this civil asset forfeiture. Here's the indictment, y'all. The indictment has this little forfeiture provision here that says that the government is seizing his stuff. So what the defense would be able to say is, oh, well, the reason that the civil settlements were structured is because, well, we're not sure till after conviction if he's even going to have access to those funds because the government's trying to take everything. You a fucking lie. You a lie. Here's why that would be a lie. It's because anything seized can be used first and foremost once the government wants it to be used to make whole victims. So to say, oh, we had to structure it that way because the government is trying to seize his assets and we didn't know what we could get access to would be very believable to jurors that don't understand the law. But it's not the truth. Because the truth is, if Diddy wanted to put, let's say he wanted to put 30 million to the side for victims, and all he had to do is write to the prosecutors. His lawyers would communicate with the prosecutors and say, hey, we've got this stock over in this account. We want to shift it over to the government. And we just want to ask the government to hold that. We're using that for negotiations. Any objections? Not a goddamn one. Because in the order of priority of who gets paid what, why, where, and who went first, victims, civil or criminal, go first. I know this because I was one of the first attorneys to sue R. Kelly for civil offenses under the same New York law Diddy is being civilly sued under. And I picked that state in that law because of the structure, how it awards treble damages if it's a gender motivated crime, and it covers attorney's fees. But what's also an issue is that it creates an awkward position for the client, because when your lawyer is hired for your civil case, that civil lawyer, I know because I'm one, we only get paid on what money we get for you. So these attorneys that are out here representing these clients that are alleged civil victims of Diddy, they really have an incentive to be like, yeah, client, go ahead and take the money. Because you can't get 40% of nothing. You can't get 40% of nothing. I've even heard of situations where these witnesses were then told, well, you can't be forced to testify. The hell you can't. That's what a subpoena is. But it puts them in a precarious position because you've got a lawyer here that only gets paid on the money they get for you. You've got, let's say, as an example, 10 million on the table, but you're told you'll get, let's say, 100,000 now, which if your lawyer is going to get 40%, that means you get 60K, your lawyer gets 40K now and today, and the rest of the 10 million, you don't get till after the date of conviction, let's say 24 hours after the date of conviction. What the heck does that incentivize? So when the question was, it started with the question of, do I think that the witnesses are going to be a witness protection? The answer is no, but they have security. My understanding is they have security. They're being placed in secure places. Like when they come to New York to wait for their turn to testify, they're kept safe. They're watched by federal agents. And they're also even have trackers to help track. What's Diddy's lawyer's fee? Diddy, good question. When it is a civil case, it is against the law of all states to charge a criminal defendant to represent them under a contingency for ethical reasons. So Diddy's lawyers are charging, I think I estimated with one of my friends who does this type of law, probably about $3 million a month is probably his legal bill. His attorneys, various ones, charge $1,500 an hour, $2,000 an hour. He's likely paying around $3 million per month for the defense in this trial. Can the money that they're getting, can they get that money on the back end? Hold on. Can the money be given to a reputable third party to hold for someone until a certain date? So what that would be with escrow. And so us lawyers, we all have trust accounts. So what could happen is they could put it in a trust account. But the problem is, what are you making the money contingent on? It's either a release or not. If you are making the money contingent upon their testimony, that is like first year law school, absolute proof of tampering with a witness. So what I'm explaining is that, because the question was, should we be in fear of these witnesses over this holiday weekend? Perhaps some of them coming missing, not coming up, etc. And the answer is yes. You all, with someone like a Diddy, always, because it's already been rumored that he's been trying to settle with some of these women, and maybe the men too. I only know, I'm thinking women because the majority are women. Settle with some of these people who have civil cases pending. I don't think he's doing this with Tony. He ain't doing this with none of Tony Busby's class. I tell you that for sure. I'm talking more the Ginas, those kind of people. He is offering them that when they settle, that he do a settlement prior to, he's trying to get everybody to settle prior to their time coming up to testify. And then say, okay, we'll give you this amount now and we'll give you the rest after the date of conviction. So that when they take the stand and the government tries to be like, did he tamper with you? Didn't he offer you money? Wasn't it a bribe or was it a bribe? Because that could be bribery. On cross-examination, Diddy's legal team is going to sit up there and say, no, this wasn't a bribe. The reason the money was split is we gave her a certain amount beforehand because we wanted them to know this was good faith and that his money is all tied up because of legal expenses and the cost of appeals and and that's how come he couldn't give the rest till after the date of conviction. And they use words like date of conviction to imply like, oh yeah, you know, he thinks he's going away, so you may as well get a settlement secured before he goes away, because after that, who knows? There, you know, he's going to be focused on fighting for his freedom, so he's not going to be focused on any of the civil stuff. Watch out for witness tampering, because here's the other thing. As a civil attorney who does this in my sleep, escrow for bribery, right? As a civil attorney who does this in my sleep, one thing that struck me odd was this. Generally, whenever you file a civil lawsuit against someone in their allegations like these that are then picked up and turned into criminal charges, one of the first things a defendant does is they stay the civil cases. Stay is an S-T-A-Y. That's because under the law, you can't be forced to testify in a civil case while you have a criminal case pending, because you have that right to plead the fifth, that prevents you from testifying. That's because in a civil case, you have to testify. You can't plead the fifth in a civil case. You can't do it. Some people you may have seen it on Judge Judy before. You can't plead the fifth in a civil case because pleading the fifth is only where there's a risk of going to prison. So in a civil case, there's no prison on the table. It's just money being paid. Therefore, you don't get to go up there and plead the fifth unless you say, well, wait, there's a criminal case. And that's because if you do a deposition in the civil case, because it's sworn under oath, under perjury, they could use your deposition in the civil case to get you in the criminal. Basically, they could bring it up. That is exactly what happened to Bill Cosby. And it's why Bill Cosby's case was overturned on appeal, set aside, and he can never be tried again. Let me tell you the analogy. I'm going to tell you the facts so you can analogize it. What it means, what happened with Bill Cosby was this. They told Bill, hey, Bill, they actually went to the victim. The prior DA went to the victim and said, hey, we're not going to be able to pursue any charges against him because there's just not enough evidence. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to Bill Cosby's lawyers. We're going to tell them, hey, we're not pursuing you criminally, because at least that will force him to move forward in your civil case, and it's going to force him to sit for a deposition. And in that deposition, he's going to have to admit under oath he did those things to you. And therefore, you're going to be able to get millions. So although we can't get you criminal relief because there's really just not enough facts based on what we've got here, what we're doing is going to be a gift to you, victim, because it's going to at least allow you to get millions on the civil side. The victim said, okay. Then what happened is that DA lost re-election or didn't seek re-election. A new DA came in. Because of the prior agreement, Bill Cosby was forced to do the deposition under oath. Sure enough, he admitted to the things. The new DA saw that deposition tape and read the transcript and said, oh, buddy, got him, coach. And Cosby's lawyers were like, no. The only reason he even did that depo is the prior DA said they would never, ever prosecute him. The new DA said, you got it in writing? They were like, well, no, but he told us. They were like, well, you don't got it in writing. You ain't got no proof. We getting you. And we're using that against you. They did. And that's how it was overturned. So in other words, I was surprised that Diddy never stayed the other cases, the civil cases, just to stop the financial bleeding. Because if you stay a case, it just stops your case. It says, I'm going to stop all my civil cases that are pending till after the criminal is resolved. It prevents him from having to waste money on lawyers, on the civil side until after the criminal is resolved. He didn't do that. Now it makes sense. He probably didn't do that because he knew he wanted to last minute try to negotiate these tampering with witness like settlements. If your case is stayed, you could still organize a settlement with a stayed case, but it's a little different. You don't know as much evidence. You haven't moved as forward. But by him continuing the civil cases throughout this point, it allows his team to better go back to the significant witnesses and their civil lawyers and say, hey, let's go ahead. We're going to see if we can eke something out for you because, you know, if he's convicted, he's not going to have any more money. They're going to freeze his assets. He's not going to be able to settle with you. More than that, he's not going to be focused on pursuing any civil cases. He's going to be focused on appealing any criminal verdict, and that's why. So watch out. Hit that like button, y'all. Hit that subscribe as well. My goal is by the 31st, if possible, we want to try to get to by the 31st, we want to try to get to 55,000 subscribers. I think we can do it together. We're at 53,200. So hit that subscribe, y'all. Y'all, it's a lot here. The views in the track reflect those in the comments. Thank you, Jesse. You're on it. Because everyone she got beaten was dirty too. It was combat pay. If Gina, the one they can't find, and thought that he's paid her off, that's the allegation. Here's what's interesting. I was listening on one of the vloggers who's been in the courtroom today, says that Mark Agnifilo is just so certain Gina's not coming. And he keeps saying, she's not coming, she's not coming. And the prosecution is kind of like, how you know? How do you know? Unless one of y'all got one of these deals with her. How you know? We need the feds to trace all the money. But I believe he's got two sets of legal teams. Keep this clear. He's got the criminal legal teams, and then I believe he has a completely different set of civil. Remember this. When Diddy started with the negotiations with Cassie, he had Mark Garagos. Mark Garagos was his lawyer saying he hasn't done anything. This is a shakedown. La-di-di-di-di-da. On the civil side. That was Mark Garagos. Mark Garagos is saying he's not part of the criminal team, but he does do the podcast with Harvey Levin, that stuff, right? So my point is his civil lawyers are doing on their side. I believe that they're doing their best to tread the ethical line. They're so close to that line. The ethical line of how to settle without it being tampering with a witness. And I believe a component of that is setting up a settlement where you get a portion now and you get a portion after the date of conviction. And they called it date of conviction with the implication being, he's expecting, he wanted to do right by these people. And he's expecting that he may be convicted. And that, Your Honor, is why he was trying to work out these amounts with these people. Nah, because on the side, we know if the agreement is my 10 million is contingent upon conviction, these people ain't helping. These people ain't helping. Hit that like, y'all, so that she's been around for a while. I sure hope no jurors are watching your channel. You already found the man guilty with all the non-evidence to prove the case. You have a jail as a backup. I do have a jail as a backup. I've been using this jail as a backup for a number of people, partially because I'm not at my house and I had a studio before, but also Eris, I don't see how they haven't proven prostitution. Remember, prostitution isn't coercion. Prostitution isn't against anybody's will. Prostitution is just paying somebody who wants to do it. I don't see how we haven't proven prostitution. I don't see how they haven't proven narcotics distribution. Both of the assistants got up there and said, I got them for him. Both of them. Cassie, I got them for him. Multiple people got up there and said, yeah, I got them substances. I don't see as well, Eris, how we haven't shown bribery. How was the hotel not robbed? Help me with that. Yeah, we've got extortion too with the parents. Can the prosecutors argue to keep the civil? Here we go. But they weren't forced. Okay, no problem, Bella. There's no force involved with prostitution. You're not forcing a prostitute to prostitute. Force is only for the trafficking. I think people are forgetting there's 3 separate counts that he's facing. Trafficking is 1 count. Prostitution is a 2nd count. And the 3rd count is RICO. Like in any case, he can be found guilty of some, not guilty of others. I've been saying, I think he could be found not guilty of the trafficking. I believe he will absolutely be found guilty of the prostitution. That's the one where I'm like, because it's easy. Come on, if you got a granddaddy who's, took Viagra, he probably bought a hooker. That's easy. All they have to do is prostitution. Right. But were they transported across straight line? This is why I love y'all's questions. They don't have to be. Yes. So the answer is yes, they were. How was that proven? Because their flights were purchased to fly them into different cities to perform. So the first one, Daniel Phillips took the stand, and they said, Daniel, name what cities and states that you slept with Cassie in. And he rattled off a list of around 10 to 13 different cities and states. You only need 2, but he had 10 to 13 over the time frame. Then you had the Punisher. Punisher talked about New York, I think primarily. I'm going to say for the Punisher is primarily New York. But if he did some in New Jersey, which I think he did some in New Jersey, and he did some, let's say in Connecticut, that would cover it too. But if the Punisher did only New York, Daniel Phillips confirmed other states. Then you also had Cassie take the stand, and Cassie listed, they showed like 13, all the S workers where there were the photos. She went for each one and named different cities and states that she slept with them in. Her being a witness, remember, it is not Cassie versus Diddy. It is the United States of America versus Diddy. So even Capricorn Clark or even KK could substantiate that FOs took place in different cities. I do believe that KK will substantiate that. So the transportation across state line is not Diddy putting them in a limo or in a car, but it's buying their ticket or giving them the money and they bought their own ticket to go from one place to another, or to basically meet them in a city for loving. I hope that helps. That's why I say it's a very easy thing to prove. It's not like, I think, I used to love The Sopranos. It's not like those mafia shows and like Power. It's not like that. It says KK isn't doing what? She's not going to say nothing. They're going to give her, I think that they're going to give her. Here's the thing. You're right. You're going to be right if they do not give her immunity. Bella Slays, if they don't give KK immunity, she's not saying a word. She's not saying a word. In the same way that today, George Kaplan, who started with his testimony, or I think that was yesterday, George said, you subpoenaed me. I'm pleading the 5th. But Bella, I don't know if you were here yesterday. I explained how pleading the 5th works. She cannot plead the 5th if they give her immunity. If KK is given immunity, it removes her right to plead the 5th, because you only have the right to plead the 5th is if you are at risk of being prosecuted for what you say. By giving someone immunity, it means you're not prosecuting them for what they say. Therefore, they must get up there and say it. You cannot deny an immunity request, like an immunity offer. It's an offer, but you don't get to not accept it. Because specifically, it says in the immunity offer, it specifically says, you are agreeing, you must testify truthfully. If she gets up there and lies, immunity is up. She can be charged in the same way as Diddy. She could be facing life just like Diddy, because under RICO, the least of you can be charged just as severely as the most responsible, as the head honcho. So the guz cleaner upper, the person like, what's his name? George Kaplan, who said he went in there and he cleaned up the hotel rooms and all the nastiness, and he scooped up the substances and drugs and substances that were there. If he would have lied and they ripped up the immunity agreement, he could be held liable in the same way as Diddy, because they would have said, no immunity. You were out there distributing substances. You were conspiring with the enterprise. And more than that, he could also be found guilty for perjury. He could be held liable for perjury. Remember, this is the same district court, the same set. Hold on. Let me make sure. They got Martha's Vineyards for Martha Stewart. Hold on. Perjury trial court. I'm pretty sure it was the same court. Yep, that was it. See, guys? I don't know if you can see it. Martha Stewart. Okay, here we go. Martha Stewart was tried in the Southern District of New York for perjury. They don't play. And you know who got her? James Comey, the daddy of the head prosecutor in this case. Try it if you want to. Try it if you want to. It says, is KK subpoenaed? Yes, she is. If KK is subpoenaed, she must show up. I assume she's on house arrest. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, your picture is so cute. I would say with KK, they've either put her up. So sometimes what they do is prior to your testimony, they put you in, it's almost like witness protection, but a nicer hotel. They put you in a nicer hotel with literally a federal agent outside your room, a federal agent that goes around with you. They're probably not telling her you got to stay in this room, right? That would be torture for, the 4 weeks, because it's going to be 4 weeks with the prosecution, or no, 6 weeks with prosecution, and 2 is expected with the defense. I don't think they're not going to make her be in a specific hotel room or someplace for 6 weeks unless they have an indication she might disappear. But I believe all these major witnesses, they got eyes on them. They have a federal agent who's probably sitting outside their apartment, sitting in their hallway, whatever, monitoring them, making sure there are eyes on them at all time, especially because, remember, one of the allegations is obstruction of justice / tampering with witness. He won't do any time for prosecution. Ooh, tell me your thoughts, Kelly. Why not? Why do you think he won't do any time for prostitution? Well, J-Lo, no. I'm fairly confident no J-Lo will be involved, guys, because she's outside of the time frame for this indictment. I'm going to put it back up. You know your girl loves receipts. This is how I teach. All right, let me go to what the area, because I'm awesome. Okay, let me see. Because I love a receipt. There's always room to be wrong. So we're going to go to the RICO. Oh, let me go the other way. Hold on. RICO is count 1. Hold on. Look, RICO says from at least 04. She was done with Diddy. Okay. 04 through 2004. You know what? Somebody told me Farnsworth Bentley. Asked me what about Farnsworth? I was wrong. I told them that I thought the time frame was 09. 09 is the time frame for Cassie's S trafficking. See, it's 09 here in paragraph 17, from at least 09. But for the overall racketeering, that starts in 2004. Therefore, because that's 2004. Therefore, but I still think, therefore, it could include Farnsworth Bentley. I don't think they want to bother him so much, but I do think that that's going to eliminate J-Lo, because J-Lo was gone by then. Yeah, but they got a new judge and attorneys. I don't know who you're talking about. How is access to the court determined? I'm seeing all these YouTubers talking about just left the courtroom, and I'm like, they're letting everyone in. So a lot fewer people are interested this week. The first week was the hardest one, but people are now paying line sitters. The line sitters are sitting for them, then they're getting in. There is the courtroom, and then there's a huge overflow room. Now, in the overflow room, it's kind of like when you're at church and you get there late. The overflow room, you can't see the witnesses. You can't see the people on the stand. There is some type of camera set up, but you can hear everything, but your view is obstructed. Rock Chick says, I want to hear from Lorianne. Girl, me too. They could have hit for more in the 90s. Okay. Did I read about minor victim number 2 in the prior bad acts? I haven't. I might need to check the docket for that. But I don't see that. This is the most recent indictment, and I don't see it. Okay, let me see. T is saying, I think this is a glorified trafficking case. Now, so do you think that RICO is not really about the RICO? It's really just about the trafficking? I would say this. I think it's no different than Suge Knight. Remember, before Suge Knight was arrested, that man was wreaking havoc on the music industry, on artists, women, all of the above. Think of Suge Knight's situation. There was a whole movie where Michelle A told her story and what she experienced with him. And so I say that to say the government, or I would say not the government, because it was the state of California that ultimately took down Suge Knight, but they were sick of him. They felt like he was a menace. I think in the same way that the criminal law entities were looking for ways to shut down Suge, that with Diddy, it had just gotten so bad and become so public. It was a humiliation to law enforcement officers across America. How humiliated do you think the California District Attorney's Office was when that CNN video came out confirming Cassie's allegations, and the DA's Office of California had to say, I am so sorry, we can't do anything because the statute of limitations has expired? You guys the police had been called back then. Various people had indicated that Diddy was a dangerous person back then. And y'all, the DA's office of Los Angeles did nothing. I think what happened is, I think Cassie's situation was the tip of the iceberg, but law enforcement had been notified throughout the years of the havoc that Diddy was raining. And it just became a matter of strategizing with the feds to say, how can we bring each of these instances together? Because without RICO, statute of limitations would have been expired for the majority of what this man is being charged with. RICO allows them to go all the way back to 2004, as we're seeing here. Whereas California said, this video is terrible, but our hands are tied. Statute of limitations has expired. Hold on. Lori Ann Gibson and Mike Bivens. Hold on. Let me see if I can find you. Here we go. I'm going to play for y'all again this video with Lori Ann confronting Michael Bivens. Y'all need to see this. Hold on. I'm going to make sure you can see this. I'm going to switch it over to this and remove this. This is another example, guys. This is Lori Ann Gibson. She is to take the case. She's also supposed to testify in this case. But this is another example of how he was able to use the criminal system. Hold on. That Diddy was able to use the criminal justice system in Orcott to circumvent the law. And I think the criminal justice agencies were humiliated, embarrassed, and said, how can we pull all this together and finally get him? Because Cassie's lawyers, literally right after they got their money, lawsuit was settled around November 18th, November 30th. They were sitting down with the feds, and Cassie was telling their story. Cassie's lawyer handed over a binder with all this proof, all these bruises, all these, and had a list. This is the evidence that I've got that you guys can have. My cell phones from back then, my computer. If Cassie didn't have those items, so for the juror that says glorified S trafficking, I hear what you're saying. It started with Cassie's allegations and Cassie's proof, but for those, there would not have been a place for them to start. And then they took that, and then they started doing interviews, talking with people, making offers, and here we are. This is Lori Ann Gibson. I want you to hear this example because it has nothing to do with S trafficking, but everything to do with how a criminal enterprise operates in the music industry. Mm. And I bet you that evidence disappeared. Because the evidence disappeared, and probably people who were there and saw things felt like I'm gonna lose my career. Just like we heard from these assistants of Diddy. I can't say nothing. I'm gonna ruin my career. I'm gonna lose it. That, depending on what he did, it depends, could be tampering with witnesses. And it doesn't have to be Diddy. It could be one of Diddy's workers. It could be KK said, you can't speak on that. You'll never work in this town again. That could be part of the RICO conspiracy. Yet, Lori-Ann never changed her story. Again, that situation had nothing to do with Oh, you can't hear it? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Lord, I'm on my soapbox. Let me see if I can do it again. Hold on. I'm going to stop. We're going to start over. You guys need to hear every word of that. Hold on. My apologies. All right. You need to hear every word. Share tab audio. All right, here we go. Hold on. Yeah.
Lori-Ann Gibson was one of the first women to come forward with accusations against Diddy while filming Making the Band. Lori-Ann Gibson filed a complaint with the NYPD on May 11, 2007, and alleges that Diddy and Michael Bivins cursed at her. During the exchange, Lori-Ann was heard telling Diddy, "You don't scare me." As the incident escalated, new addition
I'm going to roll it back.
Michael Bivins
I want you to hear every word.
While Diddy picked up the chair and threatened to lay her out.
You deserve to hear every word. We're going to roll it back.
Lori-Ann Gibson was one of the first women to come forward with accusations against Diddy while filming Making the Band. Lori-Ann Gibson filed a complaint with the NYPD on May 11, 2007, and alleges that Diddy and Michael Bivins yelled and cursed at her. During the exchange, Lori-Ann was heard telling Diddy, "You don't scare me." As the incident escalated, New Edition member Michael Bivins grabbed her while Diddy picked up the chair and threatened to lay her out. Although a large portion of the incident was caught on camera and shown during an episode of Making the Band, Diddy demanded the cameramen cut off the cameras as things escalated. Diddy's lawyer, Benjamin Brafman, responded to Lori-Ann Gibson's complaint denying all claims, and eventually the investigation was closed due to lack of evidence. Lori-Ann Gibson, however, never changed her story.
Now, how do you have a lack of evidence, y'all, when you had all those cameras, all those making of the band?
Lori-Ann Gibson.
When you had all those making of the band cameras rolling, even if he said cut the cameras, there's something under the law where it says spoliation of evidence, that if there's evidence of something and then it goes missing, that you can ask the judge to give the jury an instruction that said, the only reason this has come up missing is because it would have been something that would have been detrimental to the defendant's case. And you, the jury, can go ahead and assume that whatever you would have seen on that tape would have helped you find that man guilty. A judge can literally order that. I've had that done in one of my civil cases where I represented victims of hip implants. And it was hundreds of victims who had this defective hip implant. And there were hundreds of samples that were defective, and they all disappeared except for like 2. I said, bump that. It was federal court. I did a motion that said, Your Honor, we should be able to tell the jury that they destroyed the rest of them because it would have proven our case. And in the particular jurisdiction, the judge was like, all right. It says, okay, Krista's saying they have proven elements of, remember, I was laying out things that were not S trafficking. They've proven elements, but too many men on the jury, uneasy. Let me tell you, I have said this before. A mentor that I had when I was in law school, he used to be with the Brooklyn DA's office. He said himself, he had a client who was a male that was being accused of assault by an ex-girlfriend. And it was bogus. He broke up with the girl. She was kind of nutty, and she made these fake R-word allegations. He felt it was really obvious she was making it up, including like afterwards, she began to stalk him, text him all the time, call him all the time. And so he picked an all-male jury and they convicted. He later learned, he said he didn't know at the time, that men have difficulty finding, letting another man walk when they're accused of that. Because it's almost like it would mean that they're accepting of it or they're okay with it. So I'm not saying the explanation as eloquently as he did, but the gist of it is that if you're ever going to pick a jury for a assault on a woman case, you actually want women on the jury if you're the defendant. Women are much harder at evaluating other women and finding them and just determining whether or not they are truly victims. And that's because as women, we sit there and we say, well, what would I have done? And if what the victim, alleged victim does isn't what we do, then we're like, I don't think I believe her. Well, I've heard Make It Make Sense. And I've heard other bloggers talk about there's a particular, I think it's the Afro-Latina woman on the jury, the Black woman on the jury. She's around 30. I believe she works at a deli. But that she's been sitting there and when Don was testifying, she mouthed, she's lying. That woman is she's leaning towards the defense. She's really having difficulty with these claims. So that actually goes in favor of Diddy. So don't think men on a jury actually leans in favor of a guilt finding, not an innocent finding. Who knew? And then we got, hey, Classy, do I think Trump will pardon him? I'm going to call him the Orange Man because it's my understanding that if you talk about him too much, it would push my video into like political topic, and I don't want that. Here's the answer. And so I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Something hit me. The answer is, I think it is a likely chance. I think if it happens, he's going to let the whole case complete. And then he would do it closer towards the end of his 4 years or at a time when he wants to distract the world from some other foolishness he's done. For example, you know how we just had the whole melee with the tariffs? That would have been, if this case had been over, he might have done it at a time like that to distract and make everyone talk about that because he knows it will absolutely change the news cycle. Here's why I think so. So many people have said, but Diddy supported the Orange Man's opponent. Yeah, but so did JD Vance. JD Vance talked all kind of mess about him, right? JD Vance talked about how he would not be a good candidate. Now JD is his vice president. Also, so what I'm saying is he has a short attention span when it comes to the negative things people say about him. But if you praise him and you give him money, you can get favor with him and you can get his attention. Remember, Facebook and those entities donated like $27 million to his inauguration fund and dropped their lawsuits against him. And now they're Gucci. They are getting whatever they want. Also, one of the attorneys on the legal team is Alexandra Shapiro. Her father, I want to say, or the attorney themselves, defended the Orange Man in his case against Stormy Daniels. So that man is respected by Diddy. So that man's is respected by the Orange Man. That man's going to be in the Orange Man's ear. But also think about this. Each of these assistants that's gotten up there, they've talked about different hotels where these FOs have happened. In New York, it's the Orange Man's Hotel. It's the Orange Man's Hotel. Not only that, the S worker, Jonathan Odie, who blackmailed Diddy and Cassie because he had the film footage. He was allegedly paid $5 million by Diddy to not release the footage of one of the FOs. That man in 2018, while Orange Man was in office the prior time, went and pow-powed up one of the Orange Man's hotels in Florida. A good pardon attorney could create a narrative to make the Orange Man feel like, this guy's been railroaded. Just like we've got people in the chat are like, this is a glorified S trafficking case. I hear you. They're going to likely argue, I think he will hire a specific pardon team, and all they're going to do is get his favor. Now, think about this. Each person on that pardon team, whoever they are, he can offer them $500,000, 300,000. He can even offer them, I'm going to give you this 6-figure amount to be on my pardon team. And then if I get the pardon, you get a bonus. How about that? You get a bonus of however much. You think he won't? You think he won't? So what I'm saying is, I think they will create a narrative. Look, our orange man in office is, it's just too, he's so easy to manipulate. He's so easy to bribe. He's so easy to bribe that there's no way he's not going to try. And I'm going to stop talking about it now because I actually don't want to give them any suggestions. I don't want to give them a single suggestion. My only hope would be, if that were to happen, then the next administration, whoever was in there, if they have a conscience and a soul, that they could then probe of them for bribing an official. Because what you're not allowed to do, you are not allowed to bribe the orange man for the pardon. You can't do that. And if you do that, the both of y'all could go. The orange man could go away, and so would Diddy. But Diddy would first be pardoned, right? So he'd get out, and then a new administration would have to charge him with bribery. So, yeah, a whole new, there could be a RICO. Oh, that would be a fun one. Yeah. Somebody says, is it what you think it is, that orange man, was allegedly at a few FOs with Diddy? Well, we know he was at one in Moscow in Russia, because that is some of the blackmail material that that the Russian man has on him. So allegedly that blackmail material is part of why he'll never go against that other man at that other communist country. Because, when he did tariffs, he put a tariff on every country, including Ukraine. You know who didn't get a tariff? Moscow. Y'all know what I'm saying. Somebody said Kamala's on those Diddy tapes. Passmore Mo, you play too much. The state would just come after him and charge me. Now the state of New York would. So the state of New York is Letitia James. She ain't never scared. She's not scared of him. And remember, the state law is state law. He can't wiggle out of state law by using any federal anything. It says, why didn't he pardon R. Kelly? Well, first, I don't know that R asked. But also the connections that I just made. First of all, R. Kelly don't have no money either. You have to start with being able to afford to bribe him. R. Kelly can't afford to bribe him. Let me tell you, I tell people all the time, when I was the first attorney to file a civil lawsuit against R. Kelly. And when I did that, let me see if I can pull it up. Hold on. See if I can find it. When I did that, that was, let me see. R. Kelly. Hold on. When I did that, back in 2018, when I did, my theory, my strategy was, all right, we're going to file first. We're going to get a default judgment, which is what happens when they don't respond. And then we're going to immediately use that to do garnishment orders, get an execution of the judgment. And then you can just start, literally, you hire someone to search and find his assets. And then they just start, boop, 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 getting their bank accounts. Boop, boop, boop. You just file seize to satisfy the default. So with the default judgment, what happens is you go to the judge and you say, hey, Your Honor, they never responded. Because they didn't respond, Your Honor, this is how much my client had pain and suffering and da-da-da-da-da. And this is what my client should receive. And then the judge will look over it and they'll either say this amount is fine, or no, I think it should be something else, whatever. I get default judgments against millionaires all the time. Here we go. Found it. Got it. Here we are. I always said, you want to get that default, then we'll go and we'll execute it. But specifically, this was 2018. I said, we want that streaming money. That's what I want. I want to get to that streaming money quick, fast, in a hurry. Ultimately, I withdrew from the case. Hold on a second. Actually, I need to make sure that withdrawal is on there. Hold on, let me show you. Ultimately, I withdrew because there were differences, just like Anthony Rico, withdrew. There we go. Withdrew from this Diddy case because there were differences on approaches. I withdrew. And unfortunately, it's still pending, and the poor girl has never gotten a dime. But here, let me show it to you real quick. But what I was happy to see is one of his other victims recently got a $4 million judgment. And guess how they're collecting their $4 million? They did exactly what my strategy was. They took that judgment and they're going to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, Amazon Music, and they're taking his streaming money before anyone else. Literally, they are getting, because my thing is the best way to get paid is you got to seize the funds before they ever get to the person's bank account. Once it hits somebody's bank account, it takes forever. It's very difficult to get your money back or to get your money from them. You know, people start hiding it and doing all kind of stuff. But, oops. Yeah. But if you can seize the money at the source, so at the YouTube source or whatever it is, that's how you get paid. So one of his victims, bless her heart, her and her lawyers filed her case like 2 years after mine, something like that, maybe 4 years after mine. She got a $4 million verdict. So that's why I say, jokingly, sometimes I'll say, y'all, people are like, oh, we shouldn't dance to R. Kelly no more. I said, the hell? Yes, you should. Because when you do, the victims are getting paid. So she gets the first 4 million, and then other subsequent victims, the rest of it comes in it. So I think her first draw, she got like 2 million out of it. So here we go. This is the lawsuit. Here we go. This is a public record, so I'm not sharing anyone's public information. So it's here. This is the parties, nature of the action, allegations. It's all there. Hold on. Here we go. Yep, there me, Redmine Law Firm. That's my office. I drafted it, and we worked along with. I am licensed in New York, and then I worked with. It was Lee Merritt. At the time, we officed together. Love me some Lee Merritt. Lee Merritt was the head lawyer. He brought me in on it, and he said, at the time, we officed together. He's like, Simone, would you want to do that? I said, let's get them. But the allegations, let me just show you the allegations so you can see how it's very similar to what Cassie and the other Diddy victims were suing based on. So those allegations there was background. Actually, for those that are members of my channel, if you're not already, please join. I'll upload this so that members of the channel, you guys all get access to it. The way you'll get access is under the community post. For those of you guys who are members, I'll make a link to it and you can just download it from the Google Drive. So we've got the parties. The defendant is R. Kelly. The nature. This is not a run-of-the-mill R. Kelly S. abuse case. I said for over 20 years, I wrote this. Women across America have whatever this. Hold on, this banner is in the way, but women have the allegations were hold on, nature of the actions. He pursues teenage girls, lures them into what appears to be a genuinely meaningful relationship. He then videotapes himself with them without their consent, begins grooming them, engages in abusive, manipulative, and controlling behavior designed to mentally break them. He then coerces the teens into repeatedly compromising and humiliating conduct to appease his deviant predilection, and then infects them with an STD. So this specific one, the crux of this one, it wasn't trafficking. This one was he infected her knowingly with a permanent STD, which is protected under the law. So I sued under victims of gender-based crimes. That's the original law, like for the Me Too movement, the original law that Cassie and others have used. It allows up to three times your damages plus your attorney's fees. Battery, battery. Battery is when basically it's the fact that I'm being intimate with you because I don't think that you have an STD, but by you knowing that you do, my consent no longer exists. So it's just as though I was intimate with you without consent because you knowingly gave me something and had it and never warned me. And then the third cause is civil battery, which is under the public health law because you knew your behind was nasty. Then negligence and gross negligence because you knew good and well. And intentional infliction of emotional distress because who the hell wants a permanent STD they can never get away with, they can never get rid of. Negligent infliction. What I'm showing you guys is I filed this lawsuit. I was the first to file a civil lawsuit against R. Kelly under the initial types of laws that Cassie and other victims are receiving justice. So this is what I'm going through. And those were the fraud, concealment, because he gave the client a permanent STD that, bless her heart, as a teenager. She got it first as a teenager. And then nuisance, public nuisance, because how are you running around just giving people STDs with your little dirty behind? And then obviously this is mine. The other attorney, the New York attorney, she always signs first because you have to, your pleading must be signed by an attorney actively licensed in that state. I'm licensed in New York, but at the time I don't think it was active because I have not lived in New York for a long time. So I have the license. I pay my money I pay my money each year, but I think right now it's like on hold or whatever they call it because I'm not actively using it. And then of course that's my stuff. So I say that to say, yeah, that's kind of where that's the origination of some of my knowledge. Obviously Cassie's case, the different Diddy victims cases are all different. With Dawn's case, I'm really worried about Dawn, her civil case. The Diddy, no, it was the R. Kelly victim had an STD, a permanent STD. But what I'm saying with Dawn's case, the concern there, Diddy's team filed a motion to dismiss it. And the concern there is it does look like for the majority of the claims, it will be outside of the statute of limitations. Remember, Cassie was able to file hers because the window opened, and that opened like in November when she filed, but then it closed like March, I think it was March 1st, but March of 2024. Dawn did not file her suit until September of 24 when it became clear that Diddy was going to be arrested. My understanding is that Dawn was very fearful of Diddy, not just what he would physically do, but also what he could do to her career and limit any chance of it, her getting back and growing in the industry. And as a result, she waited until basically he was getting locked up to file hers, but Diddy's filed a motion saying statute of limitations expired. So we will see. I don't want that for her, but based on my reading of the lawsuit, that actually was my first thought. That was my first thought as I read the lawsuit last September. There's a video on my channel. I have a playlist that's called Diddy. I'm putting all these on there. So if you want to get caught up on any specific day, let me know if you like the chapters that I've added. I try to do chapters where I talk about a specific thing. I think I'm going to pull out today how I talked about whether or not he's going to get pardoned, and I'll make that into a separate video. So please share those. Share those with friends, family, share them on your Facebook. The goal, guys, is by the 31st to get to 55,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe, y'all. Hit the subscribe. All right. We are at 53,287 as of right now. Let's get that up. It says, have I ever thought of a book deal? See, people tell me about that, but what would I write about? A lot of weird things has happened. I would love that. Thank you, Smitty, for subscribing. Yeah, I don't know what I'd write about. I have so much going on. I could write about my time at rehab. I was like the rehab lawyer. I was always threatening to sue. I went to rehab, y'all, for ADD. I went to rehab for my Adderall. It was ridiculous. It's like, I didn't even go for any fun. What are you still doing till lives do a I am. We need to go ahead and just post it. We're like on like a little summer vacation. Jesse's in Paris right now. I am a little bit homeless. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to coordinate. We want to knock out a bunch of them and then be able to release them to you each Friday. If you're still, for those watching, what we're referring to is I also have a playlist that is Background Checks Live. I'm going to drop the link below. But if I do this, I've been doing this show for years now where you can write into me and let me know and tell me you like a background check done on someone. It could be someone you're dating. It'd be your mom's new boyfriend. It could be your daughter's boyfriend, whatever. I run a background check on that person. And then if I select you for the show, you come on, you're able to be anonymous. I block out that person's name and so forth. But then we do a show and I reveal the results to you live. I also give you some legal thoughts and talk to you about your options. I've had a mom on there where her baby daddy was hiding all kind of assets. I found $2.4 million worth of assets that man was hiding in that episode. It is on the playlist. That's the husband who's a real estate developer. But I'll put in the link. If you like a background check on anyone, go ahead, fill out the form, and we'd love to select you and do a show where we give you the results. It said, did I see the interview with the Punisher on TMZ? Not yet. But let me tell you, that show is super fun. We release it every Friday. We're doing it every Fridays. We're taking a little summer break. But what we want to do, Simone, Jesse is back. Her and Ricky were just there. Right. But Jesse and I have been trying to coordinate because we generally try to release on Fridays. So that's what we're working on. And was talking about the whole thing with Ashley. Yeah, I need to I need to watch that video. What she's referring to is Jesse Wu and myself did a video about a year ago about the show Love is Blind and the fact that there was a beautiful girl that's on there named Ashley who married a guy named Tyler. And Tyler was not who he said that he was. I ran a background check on Tyler and with Jesse shared the results. The most important being on the show, the guy Tyler. And this is relevant now because Ashley just revealed she's divorcing him or has just divorced him. And I think she's made comments that she wasn't too happy about, I guess, us doing the background check and making our commentary. But what we discovered in that is on the show, Tyler said he was a sperm donor for 3 children. My background check, I pulled records and show this man actually was fighting for custody for those kids. He was not a sperm donor. Yes, he did have a kid with a gay lady that was initially his best friend, but then apparently at some point they got into a relationship. There are now 3 kids. There was the one initial, then the gay lady had twins, and he was on the hook for child support and everything else. So it was very different. I also pulled records and showed that the guy just before going on the show got evicted. So he was definitely going to find him a wife because he needed a place to stay. He also had been sued by women before who had loaned him money and he hadn't paid them back. And he really didn't work the job that he said he did. So background checks live, super fun. No, if you write in, you get a free background check. So the form, actually, let me drop this link real quick. Hold on. I'm going to do it right now. Free background. And I'm going to pin it to the chat. Hold on. Free. Here we go. We call it legal research. You get it. So yeah, it's win a free one. Hold on. I'm going to pin the link. Hold on. We've got it. No. Here we are. Got it. I'm going to put this in the chat. I wish you guys could pin stuff. I don't know if you can as moderators, but there's the form. If you want to win one, it is totally free. That's why it's called win one, but it's totally free. You get it right there. And then let me drop the link too. If anyone wants to, hold on. Call in and share with us your thoughts. Oh, that's the problem. I did not. Hold on. There we go. There we are. Yeah, that thumbnail is pretty ugly. All right, there we go. And here is, pause it. Why do I look like a Caucasian doll? Here we are. That is the form for the background checks. We're going to pin that. And then if anyone wants to just come in and give me your thoughts or commentary real quick before we wrap up, I will do that as well. Oh, today, stay tuned, y'all. People have also asked, I've done a lot of commentary in the past on Christian Gold and Jennifer Williams. Today will have an update. I'm going to be responding to his prior video. It's not going to be messy. You know me, I like receipts. I'm just coming to you with my receipts. So this is if you want to join. Call in now. You don't have to show your face. This is the link. Hit it just like if you were on Kendra G's. And don't forget, you can always go to SimoneRedwine.com. That's right. At SimoneRedwine.com, you can always schedule a consultation with me. SimoneRedwine, there we go, .com is there. All right. Thank you. Jess here said this week has been amazingly informative. Thanks for all you do. You guys are super fun. I'm getting addicted to y'all, so I'm really going to miss you when this is over because he's been talking in circles in them lives. Who are you talking about? Oh, man, I missed a 2-hour live. Yeah. All right. Who do we got first? All right. Hey, Raw. All right. Don't forget, I also pinned if someone wants to complete the form. All right. Raw, what you got? What are your thoughts? There we go. Ooh. Hey, Ra, are you ready? Can you hear me? I don't know if you're able to talk, but anyone else wants to, if you want to join, it says, so Diddy is going to lose all his money over legal fees. Not necessarily. I mean, he's got millions. He's supposed to have like 400 billion or something like that. But a lot of it is not liquid. It's not liquid. It's in assets. And in the indictment, which I've gone over before, there's an entire segment of the indictment on civil asset forfeiture. So effectively, what Diddy is concerned about, Ra, are you ready? What Diddy is concerned about, let me put that indictment back up. Oh no, that's a different one. Remove that. That's our Kelly case. We're going to get that indictment. Here we are. Here's the indictment. With the indictment, you see here, this section on civil asset forfeiture. If there's anyone else that wants to join and give us your thoughts, here we go. The civil asset forfeiture is basically saying what the government is seeking to do is that because this is a RICO case, it means he's been using staff and people from his entity to execute and conspire and aid and abet to do these different offenses, the prostitution, the bribery, the tampering with witnesses, those things. So it's not just the S trafficking. And as a result, the feds want to seize all of his assets. That would include, it can include college funds for the girls. It's my understanding the girls aren't going to college. I can't blame them. I think it would be a huge distraction, even if I wanted to. I can't blame them, but I almost think maybe they should get up out of the house, do something else, just so that they would not be so distracted. Ra, are you ready? If you're ready, I just wanted to show this civil asset section. You don't have to show your face. All right. So yeah, again, with the civil asset forfeiture, what it means, and it's usually used in criminal cases. It's used in criminal cases where it's like a substance dealer, right? It's very clear. You sell the substance, you make the money. The difference here in the challenge is that largely what Diddy is doing is to protect his brand and his image. So it's not like Diddy is out here selling substances or you track the money and you're able to be like, oh, he got this money and he used it to buy this house, this or that. No, the reason this touches all of his stock, all of his stuff is because instead he's using these people to commit these bad acts to protect his brand. He had the hotel destroy the video footage to protect his brand, because if it got out that he abused a woman in that way, brands would have fallen away from him. No, Diageo would have been able to invalidate the agreement on moral turpitude, on the fact that their agreements all say if you're wrapped up in something that would be of basically a bad look, moral issue to the corporation, that they can invalidate your contract. They don't have to pay you any further. That's what he's protecting. So as a result, all of his assets are fair game. All right. Hey, Shanisha. Okay, Shanisha, you ready?
Hey Simone, how are you?
How are you? Yeah. Anyone else?
I have been loving your coverage on this
Oh,
entire trial. So thank you for breaking it down for us and giving us all
and
the
please
facts.
share with friends. Okay.
Yes, we'll do. You know, I just think this whole entire trial is just sad and both scary that someone could have so much power and dominance over people and just influence and get them to just conform to do what they want them to do. I'm really interested to see after the trial is completed and everything. Like, I really wonder if there's going to be like a deeper dive into the whole Biggie and Tupac thing, because I low-key think he may have some dealings with all of that. I don't know.
So yes is the answer. And more than that, you saw, so some of the testimony elicited today from the makeup artist is that she got a call from Dateline, as in Dateline NBC. They wanted to sit down and they wanted to talk to her. That means Dateline is trying to work on a story about this case. So I think, yes, it's going to be a deeper dive. And I also think it's going to be similar to Harvey Weinstein, which is that they initially got him on some charges and now they're trying him again for more charges. So for example, I think if they can get him in this case for certain charges, then after this one, if they're going to continue, I think that more people, more informants will feel comfortable coming out and talking to the feds. Maybe they're going to say, I know this about Biggie, or I know this about Tupac. Well, there's no statute of limitations on unaliving someone. So I would not be surprised, and I do believe that he's supposed to subsequently be charged for unaliving someone. Now, I don't know if it's going to start off with that someone being someone as known as Biggie or Tupac, but it's my understanding that it's been some lower level people in the music industry. By lower level, I mean less famous, not low. And I think that they're going to try and go after him for someone like that.
And they
Yeah.
should. And you know, I agree with you that they've already laid down a strong foundation and hit on some of the counts that are laid out um in the overall write-up. And I just think people have to be patient. Like, it's week 2 of an 8-week trial. I feel like this is going to be a slow burn for the prosecutors. I think they're looking to just build up the case and lay it home during the end of it. So I'm gonna stay tuned in because I'm curious
Okay.
to see how this all unfolds. But again, thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Absolutely agreed. And Cedar Elm says, I don't know if I should really be listening to commercial music now after this. The industry is a crime. I say keep listening because that money is going to go to all the victims. So just like I said with R. Kelly, money goes to the victims. So don't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Oh yeah, Ra, I couldn't hear you yet. Let me try you now. Okay, so let me pull you down. Let me try this one. Ra, can I hear you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yay! Now I can
Yay! Oh my
hear
God, it works.
you.
Oh my God, I
Okay.
love you so much. I
Love
had
you more.
questions.
Sure.
I had questions. I wanted to be a lawyer, but my student loans are bringing me through the ringer right now, and I just don't believe like that's another time. I have questions though
Understood.
because
Yeah.
I have notes that I wrote down. And what I think is interesting is why hasn't anyone? So they said that Gina was part of the FOs at one point. Is
Yes,
that
that's why she is. Let me see. She's victim 3, but
okay?
I think let me see in the indictment if she's one of the. She's allegedly the other. Hold on. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Let me pull this up. See if she's one of the ones who they're claiming S trafficking. I think it's victim 2, not 3. Hold on. Legally locked. That's my girl, my new friend.
Mhm.
I think she. Okay. Count 4 S trafficking from at least 04. Da, 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 da. Which victim number? Victim 2. Okay. So then
Okay.
no, Gina is supposed to be V3. So let me look at this one. That's that one. No, count 3 from at least 09. No, I think knowingly. Da 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 da. Victim 1. Oh, okay. Okay, no, but yeah, no, I don't no. So Gina, good.
So she
Gina is
wasn't part of
not.
the so she wasn't
So
part of the whole situation.
no. She is. Hold on, we got count 5. Let me see where I see a victim.
Wait, there's people
Gina
parked
is
up on my
victim
lawn. What is going
3.
on?
All right. Yeah, no. So in the indictment, I don't see a V3 referenced. So I think more so she's going to be she's not named in the indictment, talks about victims 1 and 2 with respect to S trafficking in the prostitution transportation. So
Because
I think though what she experienced is going to be used to prove up other elements. So the good news is there's
oh,
nothing, it appears at this time there's nothing that they need Gina for that someone else couldn't help support with other evidence. As I'm looking at
okay.
this is the most recent indictment. Yeah, 403. Yeah.
Because that made me wonder. Because I was like, how come none of the other SWs didn't
Mhm.
say anything like, well, hey, there was times where, where I was there and there was another person there, but I can't name who. They never implicated Gina
Right.
in the whole situation.
Well,
So I was like,
we're not there yet, right? So
right.
so more than likely what they're doing is they're got to wait to see if Gina's going to come. Because if
Mm,
she's not going to come, then they probably don't want to call up other people that are going to substantiate whatever she's going to say.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's not going to work. They're going to need her for certain things. And then if whatever those are, they may just say, all right, we've got other people who can substantiate this or that. What other questions do
Okay.
you have?
That was really because the next question would have been leading into that if she was involved in any of that information. So that just answers it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was good. That was good. That's all I had. That's all I had. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. If there are any
Okay.
mods, if you could prevent any of this spamming. So thank you so much. I think that's all we have. I don't think we have any other callers. That was our last caller. All right, great. All right, thank you guys. Let me see. Thank you, Savon, new subscriber. Thank you so much. We got super chat. And y'all, I really appreciate you with the Cash Apps. And that is because hit that subscribe button, y'all. Our goal is to get to 55,000. We need about 1,500 more to get us there. Gosh, I love you guys immensely. Thank you so much for helping this channel grow. I would like to be able to do this more like full time and you guys are making it possible. So I really appreciate it. Oh, Chocolate Beauty, $2. Is Diddy's mama on the payroll? Can they get her assets? Yes, she is on the payroll. And they're going to get to her assets too. Here's why. Because Diddy puts his assets in other people's names. He's got allegedly one of his houses is in one of the daughter's names. He's got properties in the mom's names, and they know it. So they're going to they're going to track it. And yes, ma'am, they're going to get it. Thank you, Chocolate Beauty, for that super chat. Then we've got in Instaran. It says, huge fan of yours, but pardon makes no sense. He could have just ordered DOJ to not. You are right. Explain why wouldn't T just order DOJ to dismiss? Okay, I think that's a great question. He could, but usually when it is as controversial as this, right? There are allegations of abuse. And don't forget, we've got that video, that hotel video. If the hotel video wasn't out there, then maybe. But I think his advisors would be telling him, let it play out. Let's see what the jury convicts him of. And then based on that, let's decide. So for example, if the jury finds him not guilty of ST, but guilty of the prostitution, well, shoot, Orange Man was found guilty of that too. Orange Man hired that hooker, Miss Daniels. So Orange Man's going to be like, oh, he's being railroaded. They did an entire RICO off of him having freaky parties. I am pardoning him because he was railroaded. So I say that to say he's probably being advised because the Orange Man already has a bad reputation for allowing abuse against women. Remember, it was the grab him by the private parts. And then it was the fact that he was civilly found guilty of actually SAing a woman, and she won millions in that lawsuit. So he's probably trying to stay away from those accusations. And the way in which he might be able to touch it would be after he lets all the things play out. That way he could pardon him, and he could use whatever the narrative is, such as railroading, to be like, well, this is why I'm going to do it, and then do it towards the end. But I really do believe if he's going to do that, he's going to wait for a time to do it when it will change the news narrative from something negative going on with his administration or whatever to, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened with Diddy. Yes, that would be seen as something negative by a big group of people, but it would change the discourse. That's my assessment of why he would wait. All right. Abby, thank you so much for the 10. Have coffee on me when I come to New York. Thank you. I got to find somewhere to stay first. I have a bunch of friends that are there. Any of my friends that know me, if you got a place on your sofa, I'll probably go need it. OMG Red, thank you for joining. Yeah, and I hope I answered your question, Classy. Oh, just to let you know, I'm not in a sorority. I get that asked a lot. My sisters are. So my sisters are, and my brother. So that's probably where you get it from, where you're thinking that. But no problem. All right. Someone is asking about Young Miami. Oh, Brown Sugar, thank you so much for the super sticker. I can use all the funds. And then also, you guys, there's always my Cash App. Oh, I want to shout out. Thank you, those who sent me. Oh my gosh, we're getting there. We got 53,337. Y'all, we can do what we can get to. I need about 16. We need about 1,600 more subscribers to get us there. Okay, we've got. All right, but it was. Here we go. Yeah, my Cash App is MISS Red Wine, and my face will pop up if you ever want to do that. I don't have to split that obviously with what do you. Ooh, my Bitcoin is up, baby. Dang. Should have bought more when the economy slumped. I want to say thank you so much to Latifah Mickey for the Cash App. Katrina Hammonds, girl, thank you. You just spoiling me. Analytical One, enjoying your content and trial coverage. Thank you so much. Sky with 2 Y's and an E. Thank you so much for that Cash App. I really appreciate you. As well as Doris. Kadena, thank you so much for the Cash App. Miss Sheila, thank you for the Cash App. As well as Stephanie, thank you. CEB, CEB, thank you so much. And I know that is. And C Jones, thank you as well. You guys are amazing. All right, you guys have a great day. I will see you guys. All right, I guess I'm on break. We will be back on Tuesday with, gosh, who is it? Tuesday with Capricorn Clark, baby. Drop your questions in the chat below. Capricorn Clark. Can't wait. I'm your legal bestie, Attorney Simone. You can head to my Insta at Attorney Simone Redwine. Follow me there as well. Oh, and one more thing.